Okay, I call this work session to order, Wednesday, October 2nd, open for visitor comments.
Visitor. Good afternoon. My name is Gaynor Riker, and I'm going to read what I wrote just so that I don't make any errors. I am here today on behalf of residents and businesses in St. Helens. The lack of notice regarding last weekend's street closures left customers turning away from town and residents trying to learn the alternate routes. And there was no event taking place on First Street. I am aware that there's a permit for streets to be vacated and that the City Council has to approve it. So I'm not questioning that this is a permitted street closure. I am questioning the judgment of the council for approving it without ensuring that people have been properly notified and that alternate routes are in place with directional signs. There are 6 apartment buildings in this district, along with multiple businesses and homes. The only way for all of us to get to work or to get home on weekends with street closures is 4th Street to Tualatin, down Tualatin to 2nd, and 2nd to Cowlitz. There are 50 homes on this route who all experience the increased traffic with no notice that it is happening. I have requested that friendly and welcoming reminders get put in water bills and PUD bills in August and September, notices in the paper and on the city's website and newsletter, most of which is at no cost. I have also requested that the same information be distributed to businesses so that they have plenty of time to notify customers and get them excited about the events. I have always taken the positive approach when it comes to the vast number of people we reach in the daily course of our businesses. And I want to give you an example of that because our newest business member in this part of town is the Plymouth Pub, and they recently just got an award for the best new business of the year. They employ 24 people, and that just magnifies how many people in my small business I come in contact with on a daily basis. They're open 7 days a week and serve 3 meals a day. So with 24 employees, all those employees have the opportunity to answer the questions of townspeople who come in and say what's going on or what's to do, or I'm planning on being here this weekend. Is there something happening? When's the parade? I mean, we get questions daily. So, and all of us in business also have the opportunity to put on our point of sale systems little reminders so that if people are facing the screen, they get it, or on their receipt, it might, it's very easy to change that and say, hey, Saturday, October 6th is the Halloween Town Parade. So that's my example of, in the daily course of business, how much every single employee has the opportunity to engage with a resident or a visitor. And I feel like it's just communication and planning, which should be shown to be in place before a permit is issued. So that is that the citizens of this town, whether they live here or are business people, are the best communicators to everybody else about what's happening, and it just spreads the word. It gets people excited, and people are always happier to participate in something if they know about it. If they don't know about it, they don't have the opportunity to participate, and that costs the town a lot of community investment. Last year, I prepared a swag bag that I feel should be given at the parking when people enter the parking and pay $10. And the swag bag had a very small little statement that I wrote, which I'll read quickly. Welcome to the 2018. I did give it to the finance director. It just had a map. It had a keychain that said Spirit of Halloween Town, and it had this statement. Welcome to the 2018 Spirit of Halloween Town. Thank you for visiting St. Helens, Oregon. We hope you will enjoy all the great sights and festivities. A list of activities as well as a town map has been provided. There's a central information kiosk located in the plaza. St. Helens has a unique blend of business and residential areas. Please be respectful of our communities and have a great time. We look forward to seeing you again. And I feel that that's the appropriate thing to do when people come to your town. And at the end of the events in the first week of November, it would be really nice to thank all the residents of St. Helens for participating and for enduring increased traffic. And for anybody who wasn't informed, they'll be like, okay, well, I guess I missed what I was supposed to, be worried about, but thank you anyway. And I will leave you with what I wrote up.
Thank you, Gaynor.
Thank you.
Okay, other visitor comments?
Al Peterson, 101 St. Helens Street. I have some information here that I want to give to you. have it on my drive. Yeah, sure, why not? I'm here because, well, a while back, it was a month or so ago, I sent in a public information request to the state of Oregon. And I got a whole pile of papers back. And then recently there's been some news, both locally and nationally, that kind of spurred my bringing this information to you. And then I have with it a request or a recommendation for you that I've typed up, and I'd like you to consider it. So basically, wait a minute. Did I bring the wrong? I think I brought the wrong stick. Yeah, which one? What color is that stick? Can you go up? Is there anything above that? No, it looks like I brought the wrong stick. Okay, well, I'll just have to go through this quickly, and I will get that to you later. So, I submitted a public information request to the state of Oregon. That public information request said, I would like to request information on the following marijuana applications. One of them I found on your website, the other I did not. However, here is the name from the Oregon Business Registry. Two businesses are OrGrowTech LLC and ASPC LLC. The response I got back from the OLCC is the following. Thank you for your patience. We processed your request. Attached are the license files for OrGrowTech. A search of our licensing system, it goes on in one paragraph about all the things that it can disclose and cannot disclose and explains that. So I won't bother to read all the ORSs, but anyway, that's what the second paragraph says. Search of our system yielded no results for the name ASPC LLC. So we do not possess any documents responsive to your request. So the property that you decided to sell to a company called ASPC, the OLCC has no information on. I looked at your lease. I reread your lease, the original lease, and I also reread the purchase and sale agreement. Both of those agreements are to a company called ASPC, who OLCC has no record of. So in the rest of the information that I received from OLCC was a company called OrGrowTech, which I have approximately 80 pages of information, which I'm going to share with you. What's interesting about it, about the information, is on page 12 of the PDF, which I will provide. It lists the various owners of the company. And then on page 18 of the information that I will provide, it lists a series of holding companies, which are named BF Holding LLC, PAA Holding LLC, A-Team Holdings LLC, Acme Management LLC, Glaze Holdings LLC, and Omega Equity Holdings LLC. BF Holdings LLC is owned by a guy named Cole Percy, and he's the one who signed both the lease and the purchase and sale agreement. And according to the documents at OLCC, he lives at 51963 Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. The other holding company, and all of these holding companies are registered in Sheridan, Wyoming, and they're all registered at a post office box, which is in a mailboxes, etc., or whatever it's called, at 30 North Gould Street, Suite R. They call it Suite R, but in reality it's a post office box, so it's Box R. So then we have here Peter Schill, who also lives at 51963 Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. And Amy Schill, who lives at 51963 Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. Then we have A-Team Holdings, LLC, Alex Reverman, who lives at 5117 18th Place, Portland, Oregon. Sean Land, who owns Acme Management, LLC, who lives at 51963 Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. And then we have Glaze Holdings, LLC, which is Jonathan Nasser. He lives in Huntington Beach, California. Then we have Janet Nasser, who lives at the same place. So then we have Ryan McCarthy, who lives at 51963 Southwest Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. We have Amber McCarthy, who lives at 51963 Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. So, of all of the people I mentioned, supposedly, Cole Percy, Sean Land, Peter Schill, and Amy Schill, and Ryan McCarthy, and Amber McCarthy all live in a small house in a cul-de-sac at 51963 Southwest Creekview Place, Scappoose, Oregon. I'm thinking that maybe the documents that OLCC has, there may be some, this is only a first blush and a quick review of the documents, but I'm somewhat skeptical of the information that's been provided to OLCC. All right, so the next thing I wanted to point out was last week, and this information is also in the binder, which I'll provide with Kathy. Last week, and it's taken the medical community a little bit of time.
Al, in the future, I'm going to let you go for a little bit longer, but we have a 5-minute mark, and you've known that. It's been that way for quite some time. If you want to be put on my agenda, please call ahead, and I will put you on my agenda.
Well, I'm almost done.
Okay.
I only have a brief summary of what's right here,
Okay.
and then I have my recommendation. So the Centers for Disease Control just announced last week that over 800 people have come down seriously ill because of vaping and THC. Now, according to the CDC, which I have a copy of both press releases, and there were two. There was one on Thursday and there was one on Friday. Both press releases state that 74% of the individuals were consuming THC products through the e-cigarettes. 74%. 16% of the individuals admitted they were only taking the stuff that's available, the nicotine-containing products. However, the other 74% of those sick individuals, 12 of whom have died, are sick because they have been consuming THC products. And this company, even though there was lots of hoopla about all of the CDC products that they were supposedly going to be producing, they are a recreational marijuana registered with OLCC. They are not registered as a medical marijuana producer. So that's the information. Now, in light of the information that was published in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago and the recent national news, I've typed up a recommendation for you all. and I'm going to read it into the public record. Whereas the City of St. Helens entered to a lease agreement for certain property at 1400 Castor Road to ASPC, hereinafter referred to as the lessee/purchaser. Whereas the City Council approved the lease for signature on June 21st, 2017. Whereas the lease granted the right for the lessee to purchase the property and the lessee executed said right to purchase the property, and whereas the City Council approved the purchase of sale agreement for signature on June 20, 2018. So more than a year ago, you in this room approved for signature the purchase and sale agreement. Whereas both agreements, so both the first lease agreement and the second agreement, contain the following clauses. 1, lessee purchaser shall comply with all governing laws and requirements of all agencies, including OLCC, OHA, which is the Oregon Health Association, and I went to their website to find out if ASPC was registered with the OHA, and they are not, because OHA gave all of their control to medical marijuana sites, recreational marijuana sites, to the OLCC. Whereas the purchaser would make donations to a community benefit fund. Well, according to the paper a week and a half ago, no payments have been made to the community benefit fund. The lessee/purchaser would make payments or donations to the Public Safety, Education, and Parks Fund after the first production cycle. That's what it says. Lessee purchaser has been operating a business on the property and has been selling product grown at the facility. However, contrary to both agreements, the lessee has not made any payments to the Public Safety, Education, and Parks Fund. Lessee purchaser has been operating his business on the property and selling product from the property. However, contrary to both agreements, has not made any payments to the Community Benefit Fund. Lessee purchaser has occupied the property for more than 10 months based on the original lease agreement and has not made any lease or purchase agreements. So you had an original lease, which was 2 years ago, had 10 months to make payments. After that 10 months, they were to begin payments. No payments were made. Then a year ago, you made another agreement. He had 10 months with no payments.
And then
Again,
a lawsuit was filed. For the record, a lawsuit was filed against the city that we had to get an appraisal as well.
Right.
I think the name was.
but the
Ed
lawsuit,
Peterson on
the lawsuit, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. So, lessee has occupied property for more than 10 months and has not made any lease/purchase payments. So, your purchase agreement that you approved back in June gave him 10 months of free rent, basically, or free land with no payments, and it's been more than 10 months and they haven't made any payments.
Because the city had to hire an attorney.
Okay.
Also filed.
Now, therefore,
lawsuit.
based on the above, the council finds that the lessee purchaser has not fulfilled his contractual obligations outlined in the original lease agreement, nor in the purchase and sale agreement. 2, based on the above, the council finds that the lessee/purchaser is not negotiating in good faith and is stalling. 3, council hereby directs staff to cease all negotiations with lessee/purchaser. Council hereby directs staff to commence eviction action. That's my recommendation.
Okay, so for what I know, as far as mayor sitting up here, the city of St. Helens had a lawsuit filed against them where we were told to appraise the property because it was against the law. So we went down that route and we were going to sell it for $3 million. It appraised at 1.5. And that's a big difference right there. It's a brownfield through the process of attorneys and then finally realizing that we can sell them the property and them applying for the OLCC permit, which is OraGrowTech, which is a cultivating campus, is why you heard so many licenses. It's a cultivating campus. If you are a business out there and you want to do business with ACSP and you're in the marijuana industry, you have the opportunity to open a cultivating one of your businesses down there. We knew that right from the get-go. No doubt about that. Their business license has been 10 months to last month, and they did make their first payment last month. You can check OLCC records for the business license when it was applied for Agrotech, and it was 10 months ago, and they have made their first payment. That's all I got to say about that.
Mr. Mayor, one of the problems I hear in this is there are a number of documents that are still in action that have not been cut off. There may be new
They're not cut off.
documents, but if the other documents are in place, I think you have to legally fulfill those.
What was told, no, is they're not. You don't have to legally fulfill those. They're waiting for the OLCC to do reviews of the applications. I think is what is going on because the OLCC was going to actually stop licensing, and that's why there are so many licenses in place because they stopped it and they are currently in the process of being approved. Check with the OLCC. I could be wrong, but he gave you the list of them. Yeah, he gave you the list. So they are either approved to start down there or they are being reviewed by the OLCC, not the City of St. Helens. This is a statewide issue. The voters voted yes on it. It's legal, okay? So, any other visitor comments?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Cheryl Morrissey.
Yep.
I live at 414 Gray Cliff Drive. I'm here in support of Gaynor Riker, owner of BRB, and the other businesses on that loop who are at a severe disadvantage with every street closure. And it just appears to me that there could be another way to route the traffic so that people can get to their businesses. There was one man that had 5 customers and finally ended up closing. I don't understand why we're developing the waterfront, but nothing has been done to improve their situation. And they took a gamble coming into those spots that were renovated, and you don't seem to be helping them. I wish that I know Halloween Town is a really big deal, but they're here for the other 11 months, and I think the council should take into consideration we want to keep them. 1 month out of the year is not going to make it. Thank you.
Other visitor comments? Okay. So we're going to get a Columbia County Tourism Initiative report. Chuck Daughtry, Allison Hart, and Amanda Lothian. You can grab another chair, Chuck. Yep. And you will have to pass the mic because it will not pick each other up. Yep.
Mayor Scholl, thank you for having us
Yep.
and making room on the agenda. I'm pleased to be here to talk about the Columbia County Tourism Initiative. And with me, we have Chuck Daughtry, CSET CEO, Amanda Lothian with Travel Portland, and Casey Garrett with the county. I first and foremost wanted to acknowledge and thank the City of St. Helens for their support with their staff member, John Walsh, on our steering committee for the Columbia County Tourism Initiative, and also to acknowledge the role that St. Helens has played in tourism in the county. You are by far the most structured organization for promoting tourism up to this point in the county. And so I wanted to acknowledge the efforts that have been made of the promotion within Columbia County for St. Helens and Halloween Town, because there's been a great structure ongoing for a long time.
Yes, thank you.
So we're here to talk about the Columbia County Tourism Initiative and how it's come about and what we have done over the past 16 months. And The tourism initiative was spearheaded by actual Travel Oregon and Travel Portland and Columbia County Economic Team. And I want Amanda to talk a little bit about how the initiative came about and the funding for putting together the program that we have done up until this point.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Amanda Lothian with Travel Portland. I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. I'm pleased to be here to talk about the Portland Regional Cooperative Tourism Program, which is the impetus really for the Columbia County Tourism Initiative. The program is funded by Travel Oregon. When the legislature passed an increase in the statewide transient lodging tax in 2015, Travel Oregon received those funds and then took it upon themselves to divide up the state into 7 regions. And so the Portland region is the area that includes the city of Portland and Multnomah County, all of Washington County, all of Columbia County, a portion of Clackamas County, and the city of Gresham. So we work collaboratively as a group to administer the funds that are allocated to us by Travel Oregon, and it has been a real pleasure to work with the Columbia County Tourism Initiative and all of the stakeholders and volunteers that have been involved in that committee to help pull together a strategic plan and to identify some of the priorities that we can work on together and that the region can support Columbia County on going forward.
Thank you, Amanda. So I'm just going to go through a bit of our history and what we've done in the last year and then end with talking about our destination development plan. And we also have a funding request from the city for the city of St. Helens. So we started in July of 2018 and we launched a steering committee in September. And this is our group that I have on the screen here. There are 22 members. This is a balance of public and private organizations that have an active role in tourism in some way, shape, or form. We have several members in the audience today. Bill Blank from Columbia County, Cycle Columbia County is here. Natasha Parvey is here from Keep It Local Columbia County. And a new addition would be Chrissy Marquette. She's going to be joining us as the new executive director of the South Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. This group has worked actively together and has representation throughout the entire county to help grow tourism in the county. Our vision is creating prosperity and opportunity for all through tourism, and our mission is cultivating Columbia County as a tourism destination by leveraging and enhancing resources while engaging the community. And it's been very important for us to have community input, and we have done that partially through our stakeholder group of the steering committee, but we have also done a lot of other outreach to the community. In 2018-19, and I put it this way because we're on a fiscal year rather than a calendar year, we set forth to put together an organizational structure, which we created and will maintain through 2021 under the umbrella of CSET, who is our fiduciary agent. We are in the process and have continued to identify ongoing funding outside of the TLT funds that come into us to support the initiative. We created a strategic plan, which we implemented and executed on. We had extensive stakeholder and community engagement, and that's still ongoing. And we created multiple partnerships and authored a destination development plan, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Some of the high points of the last year have been the work of the stakeholders together and the engagement and partnerships. We were also able to garner $85,000 in project funds through the RCTP investment fund, which we were brought into the county to benefit tourism efforts. And the St. Helens Recreation Area was one of those that was an important effort, and Casey has been a big part of spearheading that and making that happen. He and I will actually be testifying or presenting in front of the recreational trails program in Bend in the end of the month, going after the grant application to further support this program. And this is one of the values that the Tourism Initiative brings to the table, that we're able to have exposure to the larger funding that's out there, plus show the support for projects like the St. Helens Recreation Program. Did you want to say anything about that in terms of the partnership of us working together to make that happen?
A great example of the county and the city working together.
You have to have the mic in front of you, yes. For the record. It won't pick you up, even though you're loud, Casey.
Sure. A great example of the county and city working together on tourism, and Mayor Scholl, John Walsh, Keith Locke. I know those three I've talked a lot with about this project, and I think the tourism initiative definitely is a big reason why we were able to get the funding to make this potentially a reality. So we're hoping next month, again with Allison being a representative of the tourism initiative, we're hoping the presentation goes well and we'll receive our first batch of funding from the state to get that started.
So can I just do a little real quick recap on that? The entire council is in support of that. I think Councilor Topaz, you are as well. We've been this way for a long time. It's our watershed property, opening up for ATV and future all kinds of uses. 2,400 acres, very huge, very vast, can be broken up into a lot of various different sites. And the county has offered we can't manage it. And so that's where we're at with that, just so people know what we're talking about.
So when we speak about partnership, this is what we're talking about, bringing the county and the city together to work behind that, and then also to have the tourism initiatives support for things like the presentation in Bend, because we are asking for a $350,000 grant from the Recreational Trails Program, which would be the first of 3 that we would support to make sure that this project happens. And that is the value that we're bringing together, and this was supported by the entire steering committee, and we wrote a letter of support when we made the grant application. And so we're able to have a larger reach and help programs and projects that can implement within the entire county and benefit everyone. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why this is important and what happens with tourism and economic development. Tourism is a major drive for rural economies, and typically in a lot of the areas in Oregon where the land, what's it called when you're a timber use or the natural resource markets have dwindled. Tourism has helped to augment the economic development in those areas, and in rural communities, typically a third of the employees are people are employed by the tourism industry. There are many, many other benefits of the tourism industry. It helps to stabilize and enlarge an economic base and also stimulate entrepreneurial activities. People will think about how they can engage with the tourism market to grow their businesses. It also boosts existing businesses and augments residential spending, as well as generating supplementary tax revenues, stimulating sales and exports of local products. For example, when we go to a conference or something, we'll often bring a basket, and we maybe bring like something from Yale Grog, right, showing what a regional product is like. It also helps to enhance the place, like in terms of shop, visit, live, study, the whole thing. And often people are first introduced to a location through tourism, and then they may think of coming here to live or to grow a business or something of the sort. It also generates jobs that can't be easily exported because you need people right in the businesses. We were mentioning earlier, somebody talked about the Plymouth Pub and the 24 employees. They will absolutely benefit from tourism here in the region. And also, workforce development is something that's a very important part of tourism. And there's a common misconception that tourism only yields entry-level wages, and that's not actually true. But I would say that there's a place for that as well. We are at an all-time low, you may know, of workforce employment, for youth employment, all-time low in our history. And the entry-level jobs that are provided by tourism actually support youth employment, to have kids have their first job, to learn how to get to work, to learn how to be on a schedule, to do all of that. That's a very important role that tourism workforce provides. But I also want to read you some statistics from National Workforce Labor, is that among workers who begin their career in the travel industry, at least a third of them earn bachelor's degrees. And that's actually higher than other industries like healthcare, construction, and manufacturing. And of the 5.6 million Americans working part-time while pursuing a higher education, nearly one-third of those workers work in the travel industry because of the flexible schedules that allow them to do their studies, which I think is very important. Also, more than half of all travel industry employees, a total of around 4 million workers, earn middle-class wages or higher. And that's also very important to know that it supports a whole lot of wages. 2 out of 5 workers who first took a job in the travel industry are earning more than $100,000. And it's not uncommon for someone who starts in an entry-level position in the travel industry to move up and at one point own their own business. I'm actually an example of that. In a former life, I owned a restaurant, began my career with the San Francisco Convention and Visitors Bureau when I was in my 20s, and now I do consulting around tourism projects and that sort of thing. So there's all types of workforce development growth that can happen through tourism that stimulates the economy. So I wanted to move on and talk a little bit about other visitor statistics. That when you look at the impact of tourism on a national level, it's a $1.1 trillion industry, and that's 5.7 million jobs. And I'm talking primary jobs, which does not include those secondary industries that support the primary industries. In Oregon in 2018, visitor spending was a $12.13 billion industry with 115,000 plus jobs. And then I want to bring it down to Columbia County, and this is why what the initiative is doing is very important, is Columbia County only has about $39 million in visitor spending and 680 jobs. We are very low in tourism revenue generation. Part of that is because we have very few hotels in the county. There are 6 hotels and 6 B&Bs. We do have a variety of camping, RV, and other overnight lodging infrastructure that does support the TLT, but it's not very high. And when we compare ourselves to other counties, we rank 27th out of 36 counties in travel spending. It's very, very low. And that typically would put us down with the most rural counties in Oregon for travel spending. And Chuck, what was the statistic that you ran on the per capita spending?
Well, it's like we're dead last, and it's not even close. It's us, like, and then 6 feet of mud, and then the rest of the counties. And so we have really totally underperformed in terms of tourism and countywide. And I think St. Helens is critical to this countywide effort, and I think I wanted to also acknowledge Natasha Parvey's here from Keep It Local, and we see a connection between the Keep It Local and the tourism initiative. And then Bill Blank is here as well. Bill's been instrumental in our progress. But yeah, tourism is an important aspect of our economic development, and I think the time that we're investing in this and the relationships that we're building, not only locally but regionally, are going to be beneficial, and they're going to pay off with jobs and investment and economic development.
Thank you. So just reiterating on where we stand in terms of, on a county level, we're 29th out of 36 counties for number of jobs that are stimulated by tourism or provided by tourism. And when you look at the per person trip spending comparison with other neighboring regions, Columbia County is $93 a day compared to the North Coast, which is $202, the Gorge, which is $206, and Portland, which is $380. So you can see our spending is really low. So part of our effort is to grow visitation and spending in the whole county. And we know that Halloween Town is a really big draw, and it's amazing, and it's 1 month of the year, and so we're looking at how do we make the draw for the other 11 months of the year, and that's one of the things that's really important. So as a part of this process, we authored a destination development plan, and the purpose was to develop a comprehensive countywide plan to grow tourism in Columbia County and to stimulate economic growth. And so the input that we got was from all over the county, and there were a lot of methods that we used, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but you have this in your slide deck in your materials that I submitted. And what came out of it, I think importantly, are a lot of relationships with our industry partners such as Travel Portland and Travel Oregon, and the support that we get from those groups, and collaborative efforts, for example, with Washington County Visitors Association, who is working with us on the Banks Vernonia Trail connection, and how do we connect into them and piggyback on their efforts so that we can leverage what they're doing with what we're doing. Because all of our other travel partners have far greater resources, and so a lot of them are willing to step up and help us, and that's partly how we got the $85,000 that came into our county for projects, is that the other partners felt that it was important to support our initiative and our beginning efforts. So the things that came out of the Destination Development Plan were an extensive asset map county-wide. We also were able to look at our top assets and priorities, and the very first thing that came up out of everything is outdoor recreation. In all of our stakeholders, that was the first area of focus. And then water development. And so St. Helens is a key piece of that with all the beautiful waterfront property that you have. And trails development, because we're very known for the connection into the Banks Vernonia Trail and the Crown Zellerbach Trail. We had one of our projects was on the Crown Zellerbach Trail. And so what we're doing now is we also looked at niche markets, our target markets, so that we're able to look to how we're going to get to them, and outdoor recreation activities, all of them that exist in the county, so we can look at what markets are best for our promotion. And then we outlined our actions for success, and we're in the process of this. We spent actually many committee meetings prioritizing how to go forth, because our plan is very lengthy. We put it as a 5-year plan, but to be honest with you, it's probably more of a 10 to 20-year plan because of the magnitude of it and how ambitious it is, and all of it's possible. And the thing to me that's amazing is all of the opportunity here in the county because of the amazing assets. So what we're focusing on is, again, our organizational sustainability, because we don't have enough money coming in from the TLT to keep the initiative going. We need to bring in other funding. We will continue strong stakeholder and community engagement. We will also continue to expand our partnerships, and where we can, go out for grants and what have you, and just other projects that we're able to, a city initiative, a travel industry type partnership where we can bring in grant funding. We will continue on and specifically focus on tourism product development. And the areas that came up the highest are water development, trail development, countywide itineraries, having people go all over the county, niche markets, specifically focusing on water sports, cycling, birding, wildlife, cultural markets, and then also support our current projects that we have actively going, like the one that Casey talked about. We're also looking at how we grow the economic impact of tourism by supporting downtown revitalization in ways that we can help, or support if you had a grant that you wanted to go after, that we could write a letter that would be involved in helping your downtown to grow lodging infrastructure. That one is particularly important because that will help bring in more revenue for the whole county, to increase wayfinding signage. And I know you got a grant last cycle to do that. We're looking to do that countywide so that people know how to get to the amazing assets. Also to help with infrastructure development. One of the things that came up was cell phone coverage, and particularly up in Vernonia in that area. Those are things that we could help to support that. And then increase access to cultural tourism. We're also looking at marketing and branding and how we do that more comprehensively, and as well as putting together a comprehensive marketing plan that brings in everybody from the county and all views, a visitor research, and then a visitor information strategy where we would look at all entry points into the county and how do we get visitor information so that we're sending people all around. So what this means for St. Helens are a lot of things. First of all, like a partnership to forward the destination development projects like the one we talked about. Another thing is it's access to support for outside grants and funding. It's help with water development projects, the growth of the industry, downtown revitalization, a lot of the things that I just listed. A seat at a larger regional table, because now Travel Portland and Travel Oregon have one consistent location or one consistent organization to whom they can reach out to. And some of the examples are, we were asked to put together a shot list for regional photos, and we sent them to John for downtown St. Helens because of the beautiful waterfront. And some of those photos, I believe, will be in the stock photos for the Portland region. We also occasionally will get a call for a press trip, and Amanda will reach out to me, and we'll make sure that gets to where it needs to go. And then there were a couple other things like that came through. So these are all things that are of benefit to St. Helens, as well as being a part of the bigger collective voice for tourism in the entire county. We want to thank you for your support up to this point, and Councilor Locke has come to some of our steering committee meetings. We are presenting to all councils and commissions in the county asking for funding support. We have put a letter of funding request to the St. Helens City Council for $5,000, and we're asking that for this fiscal year. And so with that, I'd like to pause for any questions that you may have.
I'd like to make some comments. And one, this was very inclusive, and it's a great report. I'm very encouraged from your report. There are a couple things that I do have in mind about sustainability of where you were going with your water recreation. And that to me is very interesting. And there's so many groups yachting groups in Portland that would just love to get down here and to accomplish sailing regattas. They can't. They need a place to stay. They need those kinds of facilities to pull that off on a regional or even an international basis. But they're looking, and they look very hard. So they skip over us and try to get to Astoria or on the other end, Cascade Locks, one place or the other. Portland is not a good place because the wind is not consistent. In terms of sustainability, this place has not only water, but it has wind, and wind all summer long, very sustainable, 5 to 10 knots, perfect for regattas, and also perfect for things like what you see at Cannon Beach and Gerhardt and all those other places, kite flying. So we have a draw that is, for the entire family. I mean, kids love to fly kites, so do adults. There's amazing things that we don't think of that's just right here. We never thought that having a disc golf range over in McCormick Park would draw a national championship, but it did right off the bat. They have regional tournaments and local tournaments there that we don't know about, but it draws people into our community. So things that we don't think about are here, and they are sustainable, especially on that, especially with the disc golf course. Never thought in any way that would take off like it did. But it draws people. You can see people there every day. Anyway, my comment. Thank you.
Just a comment. I know John and I had talked about this. I think it'd be incumbent on the city to really encourage a sailing program through the Park and Recs Department and start out really basic and just get kids in the community involved in this and just create the market for it. I think sailing I was in Cascade Locks for a number of years, and I saw what the impact of that was there, and it grew from nothing. So the potential is here as well.
Yes.
Thanks, Chuck.
And it just happens that we're going to have a report on our Sand Island update a little bit later, which is kind of something the city, seeing it was being blocked from a lot of citizens, and decided to open up. And so how much I think I've heard this number before, but I'm not sure if I have it correct, does a visitor generally spend when they show up at a destination to a town?
Yes, well, less here than important, but I'm going to turn that to Amanda, who probably has a better.
Do you have a general idea of
general
what?
idea.
Some of the impacts in Portland is everything is more expensive in Portland.
Sure.
Literally, the exact same product costs you dollars more in Portland than it
But I'm
does
sure
here.
you have an average of Oregon. Don't they have a standard of per person?
I don't have those figures in front of me, but I can certainly get those to you.
Okay.
There actually is in the report, in the appendix, there's a visitor statistic report that shows by county what the spending is, and so you can break it down and look at it in that way. And so I gave a printed copy of the report to each of the counselors, so that's there. But if you want more specific, I'm happy to sit down with you, Rick, and we can talk through it.
Sure. And then we really have to find our niche. I mean, that is, bar none, the problem with our area is that we are, and I always say, why not live in St. Helens? Because we're an hour and a half from the coast, we're an hour and a half from Mount Hood or the Gorge, which is absolutely gorgeous, right? We all agree on that. And we're right in the center. And we have the Columbia River in our front yard, and we have really the watershed is our backyard, which is 2,400 acres.
It just, having served in the tourism capacity in the St. Helens and the committee, volunteering at events, the only person you have to sell this to are the people that live here, because everybody coming from out of state that come all year round, not just in October. There's Idaho plates out there in July. You know, there's way more travelers from out of state here in the last year than we've seen ever before. And they love it year round. So it's not just a Halloween thing. And I mean, for the first time in the whole time I've lived in St. Helens, 20 years, there is no property available on First Street for rent. And I mean, I've not seen that be the case. And the businesses, restaurants are expanding, bars are expanding. You know, there's a lot of growth here. And I mean, St. Helens is doing something right. We've been doing the heavy lifting on tourism for 10 years. So I think we've finally, you know, figured our way out and figured our way forward. And, you know, Halloween might be the catchphrase, but people come back that don't like crowds and come back in June and come back in September, come back in December and do visit here in off seasons. And the entire time I've been here, I actually was part of the tourism committee just after they did Rural Tourism Studio the first time. And they had much the same findings that you're showing me here about outdoor tourism, but it was a different council makeup that was resistant to opening Sandberry. And it was a different county that was resistant to partnering with outdoor recreation. So it's just time has changed and attitudes have changed, which has been really helpful.
The initiative is also very committed to the community engagement piece of it, because we understand that it's very important for the community to be supportive and also see the economic development benefit. And so that is part of what we have written into the plan, is how we do that engagement and continue to get a word out. We send out an e-newsletter about once a month, and that always has happenings, and we're continually growing that list. We will continue to go out and get citizen input as well. We started with a citizen meeting where we had amazing participation. Amanda was there, as well as Harry Dahlgard from Travel Oregon, and they couldn't believe the turnout that we have that was higher than a lot of other regions. We had more than 40 people there just initially to hear about what we were working on and how we were going to do that. And so we will continue that commitment to engaging the citizenry to make sure it's supported. And in terms of your outdoor assets, hands down, outdoor recreation is just amazing here. And I'm a hiker myself, and I would rather come out here or go in this area than the other part of the gorge, just because it's so overcrowded. And that's one of the advantages that we have, is being able to promote the assets that are a little known secret, actually, and we don't want it to be a secret anymore, but to bring it so that people can actually enjoy what's here.
I had one other question. I know you're with the county, and I know you're CCET. I don't know who the people in the middle, where is your home?
I am actually contracted with CSET. I'm an independent consultant. My company is Ahart Associates, but I have been working with CSET for more than the last year on this particular project, and I have other projects that I contract with them on.
Okay.
Yes. And Mayor Scholl and councilors, I'm Amanda Lothian. I'm with Travel Portland, and I'm the director of the regional program that's funded by Travel Oregon.
Okay. And then just as background for me, because I've not met the two ladies before, I support adults with developmental disabilities to access their community. And so if there's a park or a trail within 65 minutes of this location, I have been on it. And, you know, so as far as accessibility and access for all ages, access for all mobilities is so important. And I've been impressed by what they've done out toward Forest Grove and out toward Sherwood. And some of those things in between and banks and stuff I think are very doable out toward Vernonia, and stuff like there is very transferable. And with the Banks Vernonia Trail, I think it's that same market as when you're on 26, go this way or go that way. We just got to see more cars going this way.
Right.
A question on back to the water. I have to agree with Doug about the best sailing in the river. We also have other water here, mainly kayaking and fishing. Do you partner at all with the Fish and Wildlife people? Because one of the things, some of the people I know who kayak like to go at night when a lot of wildlife comes out.
I would say our biggest kayaking partner is Scappoose Bay Marina, and they are on our steering committee, and we have worked very closely
No,
with
I'm
them.
talking about the state Fish and Wildlife. Yes, I sail out or work out of there. As you say, the Scappoose in that backwater, and there's a whole lot of other ins and outs, and it changes throughout the season. But as far as does the state Fish and Wildlife affect tourism at all?
Mayor Scholl and councilors.
They do, because I'm
Yeah.
a fisherman. I can state by their
Sure.
opening and closing of seasons, they absolutely do direct tourism. As far as the coast got hit extremely hard over the last 4 or 5 years because of the restrictions the coast has had for salmon fishing. So I can say yes, that is the case for. Go ahead, though.
Sure. So Travel Oregon maintains very strong connections with their sister state agencies. And so through the regional program, often Travel Oregon will convene a representative from a state agency, whether it's transportation or fish and wildlife or parks and rec. And so that helps our region and then our individual communities stay connected to the folks in fish and wildlife who are aware of tourism demands and who can support us in our work.
And this is another way where we are able to show the value of the initiative, where we tap into this greater being seated at a larger table.
And so we're really still in the planning process. We're trying to produce a planning document and identify priorities. And certainly with 65 feet or 65 miles of riverfront, I think we're the largest. We have more riverfront than any county in the state. So we see that as an opportunity, and we just haven't really invested a lot in developing those relationships yet on the priorities, but we're working on it.
The more I see out in a river in terms of fishermen, the more guides I see, fishing guides, and it seems like about every 5th or 6th boat is a guide service, and they're bringing people into our community. However, they never get out of the boat, do they? They do. So there are the guides that would be a wonderful contact, I'm sure, and I don't know if there is a registration of guides or who does that, but it would certainly be nice if the tourism could do that, and launch services as well.
So, Council President Morton, one of the things the Travel Oregon is putting together a guides and outfitters seminar, and we actually promoted that out into the community so that they would know about that's happening and can access that. And those are the type of things that we're doing to keep it on the radar in the whole county, so that when those opportunities are available, we're able to show them out there. And actually, guides and outfitters is in our report of a market to look at, and fishing is also.
Well, we need to know what kind of facilities we need to for their accommodation, especially with their priority list. Where do we go with that? And do we offer more parking? Do we offer more RV parking issues? What do we do? And so we need to be guided in a sense, and we need to know exactly what numbers are, so that we can make wise decisions in moving forward.
It was decided in our last steering committee meeting that out of our actions for success, that water development is the very top priority, and so we will be working on that. But part of that is identifying what is needed, so that then we can make recommendations for development in all the communities about what that might look like. And so this is a process that we'll be going through, and that's part of why we're asking for your support, so that we are sustainable and we're able to do this in an organized manner that's going to impact successfully across the board.
In one of the areas we need help is docks, which seems to be the Marine Board. It's got some strange limitations. You can't do business off the dock where your outfitters could be working, but we need places to tie up and where to put into the water. And as I say, they put some things in, but you can't do business there, and that kind of hurts. So talk to them as well as the Fish and Wildlife people.
Thank you.
Yep. So, no doubt that you've hit a nerve with this council, because we have been. And under the leadership, I gotta just hand it. John's on your steering committee as well, but it was dropped on his lap years ago by Mayor Peterson, and he has helped bring it a long ways. And then he hired Tina Curry, and we heard some comments here. And yes, we could do a little bit better job of promoting the closure. It's going to be 5 Saturdays prior to Halloween for the rest of Halloween history of it being Halloween Town. So that will be a guaranteed 5 weekends. And the first one's always a soft opening. And I do apologize to the businesses and the residents. This weekend, you'll be so busy. If you stay open, I guarantee you are going to be busy, busy, busy. Get help. Get ready. Get limited menu. And my recommendation: limit your menu and serve a lot of plates. So, and Tina has taken it to another level, and we do pay her fairly good. I mean, it's talked about, but she does a number of events. It's not just this Halloween Town, which is a month long. It's also 13 nights, 4th of July, Christmas, the Christmas ships, and all the setting up and the Christmas tree and the whole works down here. So, yes, I mean, you've definitely, I think you got support is what I'm hearing, I guess is what I'm saying, is that we've been kind of on that route for a long time, and I think this whole council's pretty passionate about tourism. Is that correct to say? Is that correct?
My issue, because I've kind of, other than it's been kind of party at the tourism bus for longer than the others, and my issue is always whenever we give money or whenever we give support is to have measurable outcomes and to have milestones, because it's really hard when we keep putting money into things and we never see to turn the rock over. And that's the thing, is to have the low-hanging fruits to be, I don't know what you've done, because I know we partner with the Salmonberry and we put money into a fund to go for grant money and to go for match money and to just see those progress, because I've been around this building for a while and I'd like to see it before and after. It's like, no, we're not there yet, but it's like, as kids, you could always see those transfers where you pull them off. You're like, here's the naked house, and then, oh, look, they have windows, they have lights, and you could see the park. Here it is all overgrown with blackberries. You pull the blackberries off. Then all of a sudden you have trails. All of a sudden you have yurts, and have those kind of things. So for our taxpayers and our constituents and for visitors and for businesses, that we can say this is the process. And they wouldn't have to come to a meeting. They could just drive by and go, oh, look, they're at phase one. But when it's this ambiguous amount of money in this weird space, and people are like, well, where did they spend that money? Where did it go? All of a sudden it's gone, and they're asking for more. What did we get out of the first check we wrote them? And so that's my issue, is whenever we're deciding to support and send money out of this building in a budget that's already overstressed and overtight. We have employees that need to be compensated. We have programs, we have roads we have to take care of, we have a sewer system we have to take care of. And before we take money out of that pot, what are the measurable outcomes when we take money away from another source?
I think one example of where some of these efforts have led to that's low-hanging fruit that you'll actually can see right now, not in St. Helens, but the CZ Trail, big improvements are underway this month especially. A lot of them will be very visual, and many of them were made possible by the grant that came through the Tourism Initiative. I don't see Salmonberry as a low-hanging fruit thing, because it's a project that people have wanted since the 60s, I think. But the county, a couple things. The county's committed to $10,000 a year towards the Tourism Initiative, and the County Parks Program is committed to hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the parks budget for Salmonberry development to go towards millions of dollars worth of investment. It's actually the first phase is closer to $500,000 is what we're proposing for Salmonberry, and at least 3 phases to that size. We've raised $100,000, nearly $100,000 in private funds just for Salmonberry development. So the $5,000 a year from the city has the potential to go towards literally millions of dollars worth of investment that we've already gathered, close to 6 figures of just private funds. I think that $5,000 is money well spent, and you guys have already committed, I believe, another $5,000 towards the Salmonberry for construction staking that could start as early as November, depending on how our Bend presentation goes. We'll be able to make that decision.
2 follow-up questions. I'm a park girl, but what were the improvements at Prescott Beach?
Prescott Beach, very exciting, multi-million-dollar master plan. Now we have to go after the funding, but we have a boat dock, transient dock space, a boat launch, a large parking area, close to 50 overnight spots, cabins, RV slots, tent slots, event venue space, kayaking and car slough. We're working on acquiring car slough, which is about 100 acres of the
But that's
slough space.
a multi-phase.
It's a very, very multi-phase, long-term project. First phase, we're hoping to break ground next summer and open up probably 20 campsites.
Yeah,
But then with the
bathrooms are
plan that we
tired.
have, that was funded, the plan was funded through the tourism initiative, is going to be an extremely valuable tool to go after funding. It's a beautiful plan. Lower Columbia Engineering, a local firm, helped us with it, and it's a multi-phase plan. We have funding to start that process.
And then I saw in the paper, and I saw the starting of work out there. I call it Chapman, but it's not actually Chapman. The little,
It's
not
actually
the river thing, but
It's actually Chapman.
the
I'm-
rest stop of where I
Yeah,
always
yeah.
park for CZ
So
Trail.
we're calling that the Ruley Trailhead. There's some historical significance to that name. I consider that Chapman. I was
I've
raised-
always called it the Chapman parking lot.
Yeah, we changed the name for confusion with Chapman Landing
Right.
at the channel. That's one location along the trail.
But isn't that already funded to have a bathroom and a covered picnic
That was
area?
funded through the Oregon Parks and Rec Department. We got additional funding to do the paving, the picnic benches, an
Is that
additional
for
shelter.
spring of 2020?
So we received $40,000 through
Right.
the tourism initiative to do additional improvements to the Ruley Trailhead and to add additional bike repair stations along the entire trail. We were already planning on doing, through another grant, improvements along the trail in several locations. But the $40,000 allowed us to make a much nicer setting at the Chapman parking area, Ruley Trailhead.
That's my number one complaint about CZ Trail. No place for a lady to use the restroom.
We have a very fancy restroom going in. Well, it's a vault toilet, but it looks really nice from the outside. But
Anything
going
is
in
better than
within a month, right around a month time frame. That's probably going to be the last item we put in at that location in Chapman.
Yeah, 'cause it is
and
such a
then
good stopping
B&B
point for
Market
going
would be
either
the
way.
next spot that we're looking at putting one in, and then one closer to Vernonia. So
So
it will be going in.
follow what the
I just
county's
wanted
got
to follow
going
the
on. I encourage people to follow what the tourism's got going on.
I just
and-
wanted it in the record.
And I know this is, yes, this is a very, we are pro tourism. So I know Councilor Morton was going to.
Yeah, in conclusion, and I want to thank you for being here and giving us very in-depth presentation. Thank you. And I'd like to ask the council to possibly give a head nod to continue our funding and our support for this initiative in tourism as we move forward into our budget cycle. Are we there? It comes in forms of a motion or a head nod.
I think we can go with a head nod. Keith, Jenny,
Yeah, the money has to
Yes.
come from somewhere, though.
we'll find the money.
Okay.
That's why I said that
What were
word
you gonna say,
budget.
John?
Well, I was going to say it's just not whether, from my perspective, it's another. If we should support it, it's how we should support it.
Yes.
The financials. I mean,
Where does the money come from?
where does it come from? The the tourism money is pretty well subscribed at this point in the budget.
Yep.
And you look at that the fund from a return on investment kind of standpoint. We do, at least I do anyway. Every dollar we collect in tourism revenue, our budget's like hotel tax is $100,000. We have about almost $300,000 budget, so we're returning
Yes,
$2
return on
back
money.
on that, right?
Yep.
And that doesn't include all of the indirect stuff, all the nonprofits and with Halloween and all those types of activities, and the even more indirect costs with the businesses that visit and result that benefit. So I would just from another source other than tourism, we've already kind of challenged to our tourism person with the funds available. There's other funds we can find to support it, but for at least this budget cycle, I would.
Well, I think we have to
lean
this
off the
budget. We
tourism.
have to this budget cycle. Yes, I mean.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
saying, but
yep.
through
Yeah, all the money's been
Council funds
allocated
are-
already.
Yes, that's so. We do have it in our council funds because we upped that. So it's still a head nod, Keith. Out of council funds, $5,000. Jenny,
Okay.
Councilor Topaz, Council President Morton.
Yes.
And I'm a yes too. So you got unanimous.
Thank you
There
very
you go.
much.
And the best person to contact in your team is you.
And my information is actually on the slide presentation.
Okay. It might be cool if I have not noticed, and maybe you're just screened out of my email. I have not noticed your e-newsletter. So I have not seen any information you've done in the last year. So that would make it easier when you come in to give an update if I've seen the ongoing conversation.
Yeah, we'll double check. We have constant contact, so we're able to see who gets and opens the emails. And if there's a block, we should be able to see. But we actually put all counselors in all jurisdictions on our e-news. So
But maybe there's some reason why it's
you might
flipping.
check your junk.
If
We
you guys-
just sent one out, but I'll forward one to you
Okay.
just so you can see it. But we just sent one. Was it last week, Lola? Or two? Yeah, last week.
Yeah, because I'm just a little. I
If you-
bothered this man a lot with my. Look what they have over here.
In the,
Let's get that.
in the future, remind my city recorder that you need a half hour and not
Okay.
20 minutes.
Sorry.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
you were so
So-
chatty.
Yeah, that's-
I know it. That's
So
'cause-
engaged.
We care about it a lot.
So
Yeah.
before we completely leave this, this came out today, and we get all kinds of media blasts and TV stations coming to visit things. But this is the best places to go for Halloween in the U.S. And Martha Stewart magazine. We're number 3.
Wow.
We're number 3
Yay.
Number 3,
behind New Orleans and New York. So.
right here,
Very much.
right off the press. Martha
Funny.
Stewart.
And country living and okay. So,
Yes.
His name's Casey.
Casey was there.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to get an update on Sand Island camping. Brad Hendrickson. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Brad Hendrickson.
Yep.
Nice to see you guys and gals. As far as an update, I think we got to barely open up by 4th of July, so we had a couple of months of the summer, and I think it went fantastic. By the end of summer, we had 30 of the 60 tent sites rented for Labor Day with hardly any kind of advertising whatsoever other than word of mouth, a little bit of Facebook stuff out there. We had some repeat visitors already. We had, this is just a guess now, but it'd be 90 to 95% of them were Portland people. Now, even though we were giving a discount to St. Helens people. So we did bring in a lot of people from out of town. The shuttle service was a hit, I think. It took a while for people to understand that it was free, for the city anyway. And I think next year there'll be more and more people. I'd say on Labor Day we had probably 300 people on that island. It was really it was a going concern. So if that's going to be for future, that hopefully will be the floor of the number of people we have out there on the weekends. So.
And when is what is your target date for open season for?
It depends on what we have out there. Our infrastructure right now is just 10 sites. So
I just meant for day use, like because you have the shuttle.
the shuttle, yeah, I think.
know in August. You have a lot of people running
Memorial
with it.
Day through Labor Day. As far as the shuttle goes, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's easy for people to remember. The shuttle will be in the water. I had people come down today saying, "Hey, can I get over to the island?"
But I
So it's like,
wondered, sunny, awesome, beautiful days in September and October. It's kind of hard to avoid those Saturdays.
yes, it is. And the marina's open 7 days a week. So we always have somebody that can run a boat and get people over to the island. So like I said, we had somebody come in today saying, "Hey, is it possible to get over to the island?" It's like, "Yes, we will get you over there." So
Awesome.
But as far as the actual getting over there, for sure, is Memorial Day through Labor Day.
that's what it is right now, Rick.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it
makes
Those are the
sense.
count on it
It
days.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's the
pretty consistent.
yeah. I think it's easy to advertise it that way. Now, again, based on infrastructure, the next step or phase is to start building some cabins out there. That extends your camping season to March through October, maybe even November. Just depends on how rustic the cabins are and how what you do. So then you're going to have ways to get people over there, which we can do. So
Brad, tell us a little about future plans with facilities such as water, potable water.
We've talked about. I've talked to McMullen, the well drilling people here in town, and he said it's not a problem whatsoever. So that won't be a problem. I've just put some initial studies into whether we could have a drain system out there. I think we can. I think that's high enough, but we haven't done the surveys to find out for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can do the whole island's a sand filter, so it really wouldn't be that hard to do. You know, it'll be based on, you know, well, how attractive this cabin sort of thing goes. You know, we'll start building a few and see how it goes, and then we can just keep expanding. The next big thing is a big covered group shelter for, you know, for barbecues and stuff like that. That'll be
Great.
that'll be this winter, spring. The little parking lot down there on River Street, that'll be this springtime to get that done.
So a little history of that island, just so people know that that is a man-made island. That is basically kind of Portland Harbor sitting out there, and that it is man-made again. And the city acquired a park over there through the park director at the time. His name was Jim Davis, and he went through and legislated the state in order to get the city to actually have park acreage over there. So that's how it became part of the city of St. Helens. And for anybody who says that, because of all the work that you did over there, clearing blackberries, which are obnoxious weed, they just are. I'm a landscaper, and they are. And removing some of those cottonwoods were not there from the start of that, and they blow in and they regrow. But you've done a lot of work over there. I just want to state that for the record. I feel it's necessary. You have done a ton of work over there to enhance the city park.
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah, it's I think the city's going to be very happy with their return on investment. I mean, it didn't cost them a dime starting in May to send people over there and do the cleaning and the keeping the trails and all that kind of stuff. So that city park is being handled by us now. Mm-hmm. And this cottonwood thing, I really had no clue how dangerous some of those can be.
They can be very dangerous
and
brittle.
Yeah, they're brittle, and it's very hard to distinguish which ones are healthy and which ones aren't. So it's an ongoing process. Mm-hmm. But just because that's one of the few negatives we heard actually was, oh, you had to cut down some trees. Well, we're also planting some trees over there, so there's going to be, you know, it's going to be a give and take on that island. I mean, we're putting some natural vegetation into for dividing some of the campsites. We found out the deer really like that natural vegetation we put in, so we have to put it in again. So we're learning as we go, but it was very, very positive.
I talked to lots of moms that came out that went over, and they literally every Saturday and Sunday for the month of August, they said to pack a lunch and go over there and spend the day with their kids was just way more accessible and so easy. And they don't have to drive an hour to get someplace. They live right here in town. Yep. They've never accessed that island. They were able to do that for free, and they thought that was an amazing.
Yeah, we really did. We had fantastic response. I mean, I know there were some negatives out there, mm-hmm. but as far as the camping goes, we had one episode of a dog running around at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I mean, for the entire summer long, that's pretty good.
Well, and it's before you took over. It was
the Wild West.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk about the caretaker and how that's changed?
It changed a lot. Yes.
And the trash and
I would challenge you to go over there and find trash on that island. I mean, we really did it. I don't want to pat ourselves on the back. We did a good job. I mean, there's a lot of trash cans. I mean, that weren't there anymore. So that's all there. And the campers did a fantastic job of taking care of themselves. I mean, when there's trash receptacles, people get the stuff to the receptacle. So it's kind of nice that way.
Well, it was run down and overgrown, and that's not an incentive to make places nice.
And what I seen was the caretaker was the guy also running the shuttle. Is that
yes.
correct?
Yeah,
so
he
you
was.
had somebody there 24/7.
Oh, he lived on the island. Yep.
Yes.
We put him up. That's where the other cabin thing is going to come from. So they'll have a little nicer place to stay. But yes, there will be. Sure. There will be a camp host on that island during the camping season all the time, and it really helped because luckily we didn't have any emergencies or anything, but people knew he's got a cell phone over there. They knew how to get a hold of him. People that if they needed a ride off the island, he was there for them. So
on our parks program, budget wise, you save the city about $25,000 to $35,000 in manpower, and clearing the trash off and keeping that island to a place that it was somewhat inhabitable. Now it's a total different thing. And not even to mention our contract of which of your profits of what comes back to the city.
Correct.
Not even to mention that. It's such a plus, such a winning program, I think, for our citizens who have a free shuttle now over to Sand Island to enjoy that park. It's a tremendous asset to our park system. And I think it's extremely well managed in 1 year that we see. And this is your first report on this. I look forward to all the next reports as they unfold and as that develops.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you.
Do you still have raccoons eating the food?
In all honesty, Steve, we did not really have a big raccoon problem. I was a little shocked on that. I thought
You used to have a big raccoon
Oh,
problem.
yes, exactly. The garbage cans have lids on them, so that helps a lot. You know, I will mention also that we got that there was an older restroom that was decommissioned. We got that up and running again. Somebody had stolen the solar panels off them, so we put new panels on there, and so it's a very functioning restroom now. So that we really didn't have any overuse there. It worked out well that way. We will probably, as the expansion goes, we'll bring in more facilities, I'm sure. I mean, that's going to happen. But no, so far so good, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Have you ever, Brad, thought, I mean, there's some eagles' nests out there and some other wildlife. Has anybody come to you and asked if you could be a bird watching station or a program for something like that, or fishing derby off the beach?
No, not yet, Steve. The residents are very aware of the Eagle's Nest because we got a few phone calls saying, there's one out there, right? It's like, yes, it wasn't disturbed whatsoever, and the osprey. And there's excellent fishing off the beach on the far side of the island. So it's certainly something that we can look at in the future as far as promoting. And again, having some facilities out there, the cabinish kind of thing allows a little bit more comfort in doing stuff like that too. So little fishing derbies or beach volleyball or whatever, may come in the future.
The other thing you may want to do, and this goes with the Oregon tourism, a number of people that I know are over-impressed seeing ocean-going vessels going by and being within 100 yards. Have you ever thought of posting the schedule of when large ships are going to be using the channel?
Interesting.
Ship Finder.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a clever idea. No, I had never thought about that at all.
When the Navy ships go through for
Yeah,
Rose
Navy
Festival.
Rose Festival. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Because they do ship repair there in Northwest. I've been at a home when a cruise ship went by at night, and it's pretty. Those ocean-going cruise ships, it's like a building going by.
Yeah,
It's pretty ominous.
I take it for granted a little too much because it really is. It is unique. I mean, I see it every day, but yes, it is a very unique kind of thing to see.
Pretty special.
Yeah. Yep.
I think Councilor Topaz had a good suggestion about especially the wildlife, the eagles and the ospreys and that kind of thing. And I know possibly Matt Safino, the Channel 8 weather guy, is looking for a new place to put a weather cam. And going along with tourism, what a great thing.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Brad, we
All right.
look forward to seeing how you grow that over there. You're doing a good job so far. So thank
All
you for the report.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, Planning Division report. Hi, Jenny.
Hey.
Our Associate Planner, Jenny Dismo.
Yes, dim show.
Dimso. I always say Dimso.
So
I don't know
today,
I don't know why I always say that. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. I got it my whole life. I'm used to it. So if Kathy, you could pull up the matrix. So Jacob is out sick with a cold today. He was going to be here to help me go through this list because we kind of prepared it in conjunction, working together. But could you make it yeah, that's awesome. Maybe one more.
There you go.
All right, awesome. So this, normally with these department reports, well, we're still kind of learning what we're doing with these, but I usually go over the grant stuff. But today, I'm actually just going to go through this list. So this is a matrix in order of priorities that we've put together for the planning department. And this is because we have these things in our head, and it's just good to get them out on paper and actually organize and prioritize. That way, as things come up, we can add them to the list and say, okay, well, here's what's going to kind of get bumped, or here's how we can accommodate this. So I think let's go through this. So the first priority is obviously current planning. You know, we're running a department here, and Jacob wanted to express that since 2016, this is the first time he felt like he can actually take a breath. He feels like he's finally getting caught up. As you may have noticed, it's been one big project after another, and so he's never really had a time to even make something like this. So he wanted me to relay that. The next thing is the Millard Road property rezoning, and then it notes that this is partly based on the Parks plan. So as a little update on that, the Parks Commission is going to review 2 different parks plans, as we talked about, one kind of a smaller park and then one kind of the larger park. And that'll be at their October 14th meeting. So they'll review those. So that's something that we need to do fairly quickly. It's a priority A because we're trying to vest that easement, the access easement. And feel free to stop me if you guys have questions as we go through this. So then the next one is the Campbell Park grant, which we did a press release last week. We got just under 200,000.
Awesome.
Yeah, to update those poor shaped tennis courts and a basketball courts that flood every year.
Now I can actually talk about it because I know and I say it, and then you guys are like,
yeah, we had to wait for it to be formalized. So we have 2 years to get that project done. So obviously that's a high priority. We want to make sure we're meeting that deadline.
Yeah, and one of the things, congratulations on doing that again. You are an amazing grant writer, and you hit on everything you try for. You're amazing, and you've saved our citizens so much money in terms of moving forward in our community development, especially in our parks. But one thing I would like to say is that you've kept an open mind on facilities, on the use of facilities. When it came time for the education, our educational sector to merge with our recreation program, the school district, it made perfect sense to me to not continue those tennis courts there, but change it over to an all court, and especially with pickleball and that kind of thing. Very good idea, because the high school has 6 beautiful brand new courts. Why put in 2 more new courts of tennis? So I think you kept a really good open mind on that. In mind with our needs of our community. I want to thank you for that.
And then the next item there is the wetland delineation for the St. Helens Industrial Business Park. As you know, that wetland delineation has been submitted to the state DSL for review and concurrence, and so monitoring that process.
are we just waiting on the DSL now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So our
That's an
consultant
update.
has finished their end, and
Yeah.
they're working through concurrence to confirm the boundaries.
No, because the DSL is not just the state; it's the feds as well, right?
The Army Corps.
Yes.
Yeah, but in this case, I don't know how engaged the Army Corps, because it's not riparian area so much in this case. But yeah.
I think Jacob has a little update on that. I thought when I talked to him just last week.
I have an update on the St. Helens Industrial Park in general, but we'll get to that
Okay.
a little bit lower.
Continue on. Yep.
Yes. And so the last one in priority A is training for new staff. So as you may have noticed, we have an open position for someone in kind of community development building. And so we're keeping in mind that once they get hired, there's going to be some test staff time needed, mostly on my end, to train with some of the secretarial duties I'm doing, and to kind of pass that on to the new hire. So that's priority A. Moving into B, we have our housing code amendments. So we adopted our housing needs analysis, and so that's going to result in some code amendments. And so we're hoping that in the winter, with the new year, we can get some of those adopted. We don't want to sit on that because we've got this recently adopted plan. We need to act on it and follow some of the recommendations of that. As you may remember, that included the cottage cluster housing and then a couple of other things.
Yep.
And then you'll note a little bit lower down on this B section, there's a couple other code amendments. So these might be combined, but we're just kind of keeping them separate to feel it out.
The ADU.
We've already done the ADU code changes, and we've actually approved an ADU, actually, so they've been utilized. But
So there's still some state stuff that could come down.
yeah, so there's more state passed legislature surrounding duplexes in particular, and then a couple of other things that we might be forced to do by the state in order to be in compliance.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we might combine those text amendments with the recommendations from the H&A.
And we have a deadline on that as well, don't we?
Exactly, yes.
May, June, is that correct?
I'm not, Jacob's been keeping his eye on that.
I sat through a seminar at the League of Oregon Cities
Okay.
on that, and
Yeah.
they suggested that, in May, June, if we don't have it, then we go by state standards.
Yep.
And so whatever we want to do in our city is, you have to do, I guess, your homework really,
Yeah.
really quick, like.
Yeah.
'Cause
It's
next thing you know, it's May and June.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's better to do it on our own terms and
Without
get it
a
done
doubt.
earlier. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
The next thing is Jacob's Mountain property line cleanup.
Can
So
we change that? Can we change that now that we own it? I think we should. I know we all know what we're talking about. That.
oh, as far as the name,
Yes.
I think this is just for
Yeah,
context
for us.
purposes.
For us.
So there's some street vacation and lot line adjustment stuff that was sort of approved in concept, and so that's something we want to move forward with as we have capacity. The Millard Road entrance sign, that's something I'm working on. I want a welcome to St. Helens sign that isn't wooden and falling apart. So that's
And you have diligently been reaching out to ODOT-REL.
yeah, so I have like a framework of what needs to happen. I just haven't had time, quite frankly. But the same sign company that did our signage, our wayfinding signage, gave me a quote. So I've got the costs, barring utilities. We have to bring electrical to it. But
We actually did a whole long process of entrance sign information.
yeah, so I have that folder. I'm very familiar with that process, and yeah, there's a lot of history
There
involved
was a
with that.
lot of nights of my life dedicated to that entrance
Yeah,
sign
and
committee.
we
Today's
can,
like,
we
I'm
can
not
talk
letting that go to
offline.
waste. I'm mentioning
Well,
it
I mean,
right
there
now.
was good outcomes. There were good outcomes and good, overarching themes. Not like that design, but
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also got incorporated with the gateway sculptures, like the kind of the same, like heritage capture.
stuff got flushed out a
Yeah.
little bit.
Anyways, so the next one, this is exciting. Just on September 30th, a couple days ago, so St. Helens Industrial Business Park Infrastructure Plan, we submitted an application. So DLCD has a technical assistance grant program, and our industrial park is in need of infrastructure planning and master planning for parcelization, like where a parcel is going to go, where easement's going to go. And it has a lot of interesting private and public utility issues, exclusive use agreements. I mean, there's a lot going on that site. And so we applied for $50,000, and we would contribute $10,000 for a $60,000 effort to master plan that park. We should hear back, I think they said by the end of October. So it's fairly quick. But we did get this is a great application from the state right when we submitted it. So I'm hopeful with that. So that will take some management if we get it. The next is the police station analysis. So, the planning department has been involved with McKenzie's contract to do police station analysis. There's a lot of planning related questions. We've been providing that staff help to them. And that will probably continue as that analysis continues. The next one, so the Safe Routes to School Columbia Boulevard Sidewalk Project. That's just on here because it was a grant-funded project. I will continue to submit grant reports to the state for that and just make sure that the project moves along successfully in conjunction with Sue. We talked about the code amendments that are going to be state-forced for housing. Records retention. So every cleanup day, we go through and pull out a bunch of old planning documents. We, lessen the amount of things that we're storing for things that are not out of date. But there's also state guidelines for records retention for planning department stuff. And so we've been looking at those state guidelines and looking at, well, we want to store stuff a lot of the time for the life of the subdivision. We want to keep HOAs. We want to keep all that documentation. So looking at each land use decision and deciding for our own policies how long we want to store that material, and then creating a file for when we do get rid of records. There's a form you have to fill out. And so just it's procedural stuff that we really should do. We just haven't had time to. So both of those are on here. So there's records retention, creating the form, and then there's on the C category, records retention implementation. So creating the form is a B priority, and then C is actually implementing it and going through and destroying records that we no longer need to keep. So that's that. Code amendments for accessory structures. This is something that I've been advocating for because the building code and the development code have different rules for when an accessory structure permit's needed. There's ways that we can streamline that process and make it easier for residents when they're trying to just build a shed in their backyard. It's something for years that we've been wanting to do. We just haven't had the time to do. And I really hope that our code amendments for housing can also accommodate these accessory structure rules, because it would just be a lot less procedure for us to go through and easier for residents to build, small sheds. Training. So Jacob added this item. He wants to do continual training for me so that I can continue to work on larger projects like subdivisions and apartment complexes. And that's just an ongoing thing to kind of start passing off some of those files. So that's an ongoing thing. Getting into the C category, Matt has been an advocate for updating the Parks and Trails Master Plan. And so as that happens, there's going to need to be some capacity from the planning department to be involved in those decisions and the public process associated with that. South River Street to South 2nd Street connection plan. This is something the council has heard multiple times, that there needs to be a long-range plan for the end of River Street and getting back up to 2nd Street. And so Jacob just wanted to capture that in this list, that is something we still want to do. It's just that there's all of these other things in front of it.
If we could bump that up somehow, because we always have stuff that needs materials that need to go in, and I'd like to have a plan in case we do get approached. Why are we dumping the materials there? Because it could only be a rainy season where we have to dig up a huge pipe and we need to haul some material. And that happens to be the site that we want to take it to. Wouldn't it be nice, Sue? I mean,
yeah, we're working on that.
Okay. All right, that's what I wanted to hear.
We're totally working on.
Well, Jacob's got it on the bottom of his list, so.
Well, yeah, it's something that we would work with Jacob, because it would involve, and Jenny, because it's going to involve zoning, et cetera. But yeah, no, that's it's definitely on our project list.
Okay.
The next thing, so uploading pamphlets, hard copy, and website. We want to be as user-friendly and easily accessible to our residents as possible. It's sometimes hard to have that capacity to make a brochure for, so you want to construct a fence, here are the rules, or, you want to build a shed. And if we had unlimited time, that would be something we could work on. It's just on this list as, we want to get to it. We know it's something that would make our lives easier too if we could just hand people brochures. So that's on our list. Code amendments for food trucks and food carts. This is kind of a newer thing. We have a way to capture their use, and it's through our temporary use permit chapter, but actually creating rules specific to food carts and food trucks and pods is something that we both want to correct, because it kind of works right now, but we've kind of had to make it work, and they have to reapply every year. Maybe there's a way we can make it a little bit easier. If you want to locate a food truck here, the rules are kind of more straightforward. So that's something we want to fix. Records retention we talked about. So then there's this category WC. Jacob has these as wild cards. And it's because we don't know when they're going to start picking up. So Urban Renewal Agency, I'm kind of staffed on that as the secretary. And so if we start having regular Urban Renewal Agency meetings as finances pick up, that's going to require more staff time and maybe reconsideration about how we allocate our time. Jacob has on here new GIS and aerials. This is in combination with Public Works. Our aerials, the aerial photos that we use in conversation over the counter with everyone every day are from 2009.
Yes.
And updating them.
Some are actually from 2001.
Yeah. So when we talk about people's property lines and buildings on their property, it's incredibly out of date. And so getting updated aerials would help residents. It would help us make more informed decisions about, when buildings went up and things like that. So that's something. And then, I realized I skipped something in A too. Official zone and comp plan map updated. So our last zoning map online and on Jacob's wall, if you've ever been in Jacob's office, is from 2016. So that means it still has the veneer site as industrial. It's not even Riverfront District. I mean, our GIS zoning maps are so outdated. So much has happened in the last 3 years. And so he has that as a high priority. It's going to take him a couple of days to just go through and make all of those changes on the maps. And that will make my life a lot easier, and anyone who looks at our maps a lot easier. Anyways, sort of related to aerials. I just realized I skipped it. And then the last thing, the build grant.
Yep.
Huge wild card. In December, if we get this, we're going to be up and running on that and managing that project. It's going to be all hands on deck, basically, to get that project going. So then everything kind of gets bumped down, and suddenly pamphlets for sheds and fences are not even on the radar if we get that grant. So this is something we're going to keep up to date. And as we get grants or don't get grants, things can change and we can bump things up. But I think this is a good tool for us to kind of refocus every day, and for council to kind of see, like, this is what we've got on our plates.
Fingers crossed on the build grant. I'd love to see everybody super busy.
Yeah.
Not that you already aren't. Not that you already aren't. Let me clarify.
Just wanted to put just an extra thank you to all the members of the team. I think, not to diminish your role in the grant making, but it's a team effort that gathers all that information, all those facts.
Yeah.
It's not a one-person deal. The whole
It's
team
true.
put their hands on it and made it successful.
Yep.
We appreciate having that team.
And I do have a couple of other updates. So we talked about the DLCD grant we applied for. Our signage has been delivered. We just are waiting for the right time to install. So those are the wayfinding pole signs.
Yep.
So they're at the shops if you want to see them.
If you want to look at them, they're really cool.
Oh, did you look?
I did, yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I just saw a photo. And then just a couple of days ago, we got notice that we were successful with our 19,000. We asked for 20,000. We got 19,000 through the Nike Community Impact Fund. So Oregon Community Foundation has a Nike Impact Fund that they award grants to for increasing physical activity for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so we applied for a 1,000-foot off-street trail connection between Nob Hill Nature Park and Tualatin Street pedestrian path.
Excellent.
And so this is going to be an entirely off-street trail connection from one of our nature parks to an existing pedestrian path, and I'm incredibly excited about it. There's a small wetland that we're going to hopefully install a little boardwalk over, and we're going to utilize Columbia River Youth Corps high school students to do the actual construction. So that was something that Nike viewed as like really, increasing physical activity and yeah.
And I was very impressed the way the Parks Commission was involved on that in that process.
Yeah.
And how they did their research along with you, along with the staff. A good collaboration between a commission and a staff.
The
Just have
Parks
to
and
mention-
Trails Commission. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. So that we have a year to use. So that's going to be one of those A projects that we have to focus on because we have 1 year to use the funds. And since the labor is going to be mostly done by the high school students, it's a really cost-effective project that we can get done for fairly cheap. So
I have one last thing.
Yeah.
I have been down here a dozen nights now and have not seen the kiosk on again.
Yes. So that's a good question. I don't know. I think we'll contact our electrician.
I have made a
later.
point to come down and look at it
Yeah.
because after somebody told me that it must have been too bright or whatever, like I
Yeah.
didn't know what dark was.
Mhm.
So then I came down here multitude of nights and stood at all different angles. And
Is it both sides?
the whole thing's dead.
Okay. We'll look into it. Thank you.
Yeah. I've been down here at 10 o'clock at night. There's no lights anywhere and it's black. And
Okay.
I thought, here we are in the middle, going into October. It really should be lit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a huge, we actually paid for extra to get lighting on both sides, so we want to make sure it's working.
People stopped to look at it when it was illuminated. So that caught my attention when it was not.
Thank you for noticing.
Jenny, on this document retention, do we photograph everything we're going to destroy so we have at least a digital record of it, or do we get rid of everything so we have zero history when you destroy it? Is that correct?
For records retention?
Yes.
Yeah, and the things that we're destroying are maybe projects that didn't happen, is an example of something we would destroy. So like if someone applies and there's a file of their application and then that doesn't ever happen, we keep it for a certain amount of time and then destroy
But
it.
you still destroy, so we have no record of the work they did anyway.
Yeah, we wouldn't typically scan files for projects that didn't happen.
Even though there's a fair amount of work history hidden in that paperwork.
Well, all the street improvements, if it was dedicated streets, would be turned over to Sue and entered
Yeah,
in the
we're
computer.
talking about land use
Yeah.
in particular.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can never,
Yeah.
ever throw away
Yes.
No, as built.
much of the documentation for any public infrastructure. I mean, once, like after so many years, you can throw away a contract or something like that, but you can't throw away anything, or you can't destroy anything that is a permanent record of public infrastructure. Ever.
Well, yeah, exactly. And for a lot of our land use records retention, we go over and above what the state's mandated retention would be. Like, we want to keep stuff because it's helpful for us to have records of previous subdivisions that may not have ever been built, just because sometimes it's useful to know how many lots they were planning to put there. Did that get at your question?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't make me happy. I've come from a place where we have records back to the 1700s, and now and then some of those old things that weren't done, there was a reason why it didn't happen, but the planning was good.
Sure.
And why redo it? I've been rather surprised this side of the Mississippi how historic records are not kept, even digitally on film or something like that.
Welcome to the Wild Wild
Yeah,
West.
I want Kathy to speak up. I mean, we're not talking about minutes for council or things
No,
like
no,
that.
we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
photographs or microfilm. Now it's digital.
There are, excuse me, there are documents that are considered historic that we do not get rid of.
Right.
Some of those historic documents we give to Brenda at the library. She has a desire to make sure that those things
Sure.
are kept in historical records.
Oh, so it changes departments. It goes from here to a library.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
happen very often, but it does. But as far as records retention, we do try to stick with what the state says is our retention schedule. But when it comes to historic documents, we try to preserve those.
Okay. I find the state a little bit short on this. Again, I come from where you got 300 and some years that now and then it's helpful.
Yeah, and the reasoning behind it is, and the state has a huge, their outlook on this is that we just don't have the storage ability to store all of these records. And even electronically, the electronic storing of records can also
Be burdensome, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Jenny, we appreciate your report. Did you have anything else? I mean, it's nice to see this stuff up here because it aligns with our council goals. A lot of, so, I'm looking at the Millard Road property. I'm looking, housing is part of one of our goals. And the industrial property was definitely something that was talked about. The urban renewals are going to be ongoing. That's going to be huge for this city.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, Sue, let's discuss the scope of work for First Street.
Yes, thank you. So at the last council meeting, there were some questions about the scope of work that Hiddleston and Associates had proposed for the South First Street, St. Helens Street intersection improvements. So We have Tony Roos here today from Kittleson and Associates, and hopefully he can answer your questions and bring some more clarity to their scope. I don't know if Tony,
Tony, if you want to come
on
up to the
up
mic.
to the
Yes, and introduce
desk
yourself.
and-
I'm just going to get a cup of coffee. Council Martin, I'm just grabbing a cup real
Someone
fast.
listen to me. I get it.
Yeah, no, Tony, don't get that way.
Yeah, pull the mic close to you, and we'll be all set. Our audience can hear you then.
All right. Hi. My name's Tony Roos. I'm with Kittleson Associates in Portland. We were fortunate enough to do the traffic study to show the all-way stop, two-way stop configuration for the intersection at First and St. Helens. And then Sue asked us for a scope to advance that concept into construction. And that's where we sit now. And so I understand there's some questions.
Turn on. So I kind of started this project, and it was to put a four-way stop there because not recently, but in the last 20-some years, I've walked that street twice a day or 3 times a day, and I've noticed a lot of unsafe things happening and confused people and all that. And I still feel that it still needs to be a four-way stop just because of the safety of everything and the ease of the local people using that intersection that go through different ways than a lot of people do and whatnot. So, and I was just in Independence, Oregon about 3 weeks ago. They have a very similar situation coming out of where they're building the new hotel and infrastructure down there. And they still didn't make a three-way, it's a three-way, but they didn't, and it's very hard to get out there. And they're going to have a lot of out-of-town people trying to get out of a street that they're not familiar with. And that's part of the problem with it, especially during the summer here when we have way more traffic than the winter when you guys did your tests and whatnot. You didn't talk to any local people about how they felt about the intersection. And so anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth about it. It still should be a four-way stop.
I'll piggyback on that, and just knowing that our urban renewal is going to reconfigure all of First Street into our riverfront development, in a sense. And this is a short time from now. Could be a very short time in terms of archaeological time, but it's around the corner. So thinking about that intersection, it was a precursor to what's happening down in riverfront development and a whole entire transportation corridor evolving. Was that taken into consideration at all in the planning, or was it planned for just right now? That's my question. You can answer that as you go on in your report. I certainly don't want you to respond to it right now, but I did have that concern. And I have heard those concerns from our citizens. Jenny, did you have anything?
The question I had is we had public comment about the cost as compared to like a subdivision and that kind of thing. And if you could, you're the expert, to detail what would make that intersection more expensive, the barriers that intersection has. That I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm not a traffic designer, and I mean, I can understand going into historic district when you're trying to put new stuff into an old area. And if you can explain that, why you can build 30 homes and divide the roads and it'll cost a third what it costs at intersection, if you can explain what of those factors are that increase that cost.
Do you want to continue to hear other concerns, or do you want to start to answer those one at a time? How would you like to proceed?
I serve at your pleasure, whichever you'd like.
Okay. Mr. Topaz might have some concerns as well.
Okay. I want you to design it, but cut it the cost 40%. Don't listen to us. You as an engineer, look at, I want a safe intersection, do whatever you think, but 40% less than this. Go. I mean, obviously there's been public input, and sometimes it's helpful and sometimes not. A lot of it's emotional. But I want you to build a intersection that's safe, does all the right things, but costs 40% less than this.
Can I?
Yeah, John, please chime in.
So, this intersection is really ground zero for our planning work. We've had two major transportation projects that start and end at this intersection. And I think, the Riverfront Connector, the most recent one that goes from this intersection all the way up to Plymouth and up to Gable, and then the Gateway, preceding that, and then it goes and makes the highway improvements, and down through Columbia and St. Helens Boulevard, and kind of terminating right here. So I think it's supremely important that we get this intersection right as this hub, and to bone it out before we ever get started. I think it's not fair. I think we need to really do a really good job designing this intersection, as all the aesthetic improvements, because it's going to set the tone for the rest of the waterfront development as this flows down onto the riverfront and then to and through the site, and all the connecting intersections and other improvements that will be related to that. So
I think that's a good point. And just our signage alone that we have at the shop, if you all want to go over and take a look at it, they're about like that big around. They have a base on them like this. They have to have 3 feet of concrete. Okay? That was engineered specs. Those were engineered specs that it came with. Somebody drew up. Yeah.
It's a pretty beefy sign.
Yeah, they are beefy signs. They're very, very nice, and they're going to last. They're going to be 3 feet in the ground. If you hit them, you're going to wish you never hit them. So, point being is that's what we're kind of looking at this intersection as, is not going lightly, that it's going to be something that will stand the test of time and be nice for a long time. That's just what I was envisioning, and I was right along with you. That's why I just wanted to bring that up. So, but you had some concerns, and I apologize. I had to get some coffee so you can answer for the council and myself.
Well, I can answer a couple of questions. So, to start with the traffic question, did we account for the future traffic? We did our preliminary analysis for the 2-way stop control versus 4-way stop control in the winter. You are correct about that. But Kittleson has done the Riverfront Master Plan. We have all of the traffic data that generated from that, so we know what the projected volumes are going to be. Well, know what it is, but what the anticipated growth volumes are going to be in 20 years during peak hour. So we didn't use winter 2019, 2018 data. We used projected data that was developed from the Riverfront Master Plan that looked at the full connections being made and what the traffic volumes will be. So that's what the analysis is based off of. From the cost standpoint, there's a really quite a difference between a green development subdivision, when you take down and you can straight blade off a field or the edge of a road and widen it, versus coming in trying to retrofit an existing building, an existing facility that has curb tight, zero setback buildings. We have to be really sensitive to the doorways for all the buildings, make sure they have access and ADA access. So the grading gets extremely challenging. We want to make sure. We could cut the fee down 40% if we didn't care about that. If we wanted to say, Mr. Contractor, here's the curb line, there's the building door, you figure it out, and if it doesn't work, then we're going to pay more in construction. The detail that we have to put into these plans to make sure that they're accurate and buildable, that the ADA grades work, the access works for the homes, is what drives the cost up, or the building fronts for the bank and the businesses. Does that answer your question?
And kind of my answer to my question, which sold me, was you follow, as Kittleson Engineering, you follow the project all the way through.
Yes, sir.
And make sure all the specs that you have drawn up are met along the way.
Correct.
Correct?
This is scoped from concept.
This is not only this is not just drawing it up. This is the whole project.
Correct. We're on call to Sue and her team all the way through the
100% signed off by Kittleson Engineering.
We will sign the as-built when it's done.
Okay.
Yes. It also includes, from what we discussed, well, at least I discussed with Caleb, them at the 30% design phase, which is where things can be modified to a certain degree, a presentation to the council. So you can look to see the project as it's being developed and be able to put some input into it. Hey, maybe this is a better place for art, or we like this design better for the crosswalks. Those types of decisions to be able to come back to you and talk to you about.
With that type of flexibility that was just mentioned in mind, how many projects normally are cost overruns for you folks? How many you come in at a certain bid and there are some flexibilities that start to happen along the lines of, oh, we can do this, yes, we can accommodate that. And how many projects do you go over your estimated cost?
If the scope stays the same, we don't.
Yes, and I can also attest to that. The initial study that they did up here to look at the analysis of the intersection, they came in at about 20-25% under what their quoted budget was.
So many times you come under
Yes,
your estimated bid.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, got a quick question. Last council meeting, I made a suggestion we stop all programs in the city and redo the entrance from 30 into the city, going over or under the railroad. Basically, getting into the city is a major, major problem. Okay, now, the connector plan and some of these plans were based on really not doing much there. Assuming there's a major change in how we get into the city, there's a couple of bridges over or under the railroad. How does that affect this intersection? Because right now, we have a choke point at Gable Road in the connector plan.
I don't think you could really answer that because there's not any. We're doing a rail study with the port right now, just a rail study to see where that would fit. So that's so far off, and that, and maybe what I hear you saying, Councilor Topaz, is what I think I hear you saying is why aren't we putting money towards that out there? And because we don't have a plan, and it is probably to the hundreds of millions of dollars to create an underpass or an overpass, hundreds of millions. Mm-hmm. So the city definitely doesn't have that. So that's why we're working with the port to actually have a study done to find out where it would be needed, and then pursue with the port and potentially Scappoose to find needs to, whether it be an overpass or an underpass. We don't know. We don't know.
That said, your TSP, your Transportation System Plan,
That's right.
does have Gable Road listed as a major collector or an arterial into the city. Yeah. And when we look at that model 20 years out for the traffic volumes that we base our design on, it assumes that all those improvements on Gable Road have been made and says, okay, in 20 years, here's what the traffic's going to be when all the identified improvements are made already. So we don't look at today's volumes and build for today. We want to make sure this is going to last for long into the future.
And Commissioner Heimuller would be one to talk about at a county level as far as transportation. He is in charge of that.
One of the things on the connector plan, we did not have a development going right at Gable Road and behind Walmart in that area. That came in just relatively recent. That's 250 units, roughly. And Ridgefield had a bridge over the railroad there. That only cost them $25 million. So the $100 million's a little iffy. But this whole Route 30, Scappoose, St. Helens, over the railroad into town is a mess. And sooner or later, it's got to get done. Just even sky bluing it, what could be done, whether it gets done or not. Let's assume we come in with a major road halfway between Columbia Boulevard and Gable Road. 4 lanes. It's got bike paths, pedestrians, nonstop off 30 and on 30. How would that affect downtown here? I mean, was any thought made into a major change, or is it just a nickel and dime Band-Aid on what we already have? That's what I'm, and I don't think 20 years out is when it's going to happen. I think it's going to have to happen or we die before then.
And again, Councilor Topaz, I hate to come back to this, but we're currently working on that with the port, and we can do all kinds of hypotheticals, and I just want to allow our guest here to give his presentation on the intersection at hand, not future wild intersections and pedestrian bridges that are going to be brought up. What we're really here to talk about is the intersection on 1st and St. Helens Street, okay? In the scope of work.
I'll follow up on that, just what the mayor said. And did you take in account, one, our festivals that we're having in this area, the amount of traffic and the amount of interest in this area in terms of transportation and parking, those kinds of issues, in terms of how heavy the traffic will be and is on weekends and can be if we have a hotel here, a big hotel, and if this waterfront is going to be as active as we hope it will be. Has that all been taken in account? I know you looked at the master plan, but did you count up all the residential areas and commercial business outlets that will be in our riverfront development?
Assuming everything develops the way it's projected, and that was all, you're not going to change out a park and put in a 20-story high-rise
Exactly.
dense, then yes, that has been accounted for in that 20-year projection.
Okay, thank you.
Do we look at peak events over a weekend that's going to draw in like your holiday, your Halloween party you have down here? That's a one-off event that's not planned for, not designed for.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the larger, bigger picture of how this area is going to develop overall, that is accounted for in that 20-year projection.
Thank you.
I don't, not to beat a dead horse on the event thing, but that's estimated between 30 and 40,000 people for the month of October. It's not one day of traffic. It's a month long of traffic. And from the 1st of September until Thanksgiving, we have people in here complaining about the fact they can't get to their house.
And I get that.
Yeah,
but
it's not
hard to-
just a one-up.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure people realize, and that's just in October. We're talking about expanding tourism and expanding business and expanding other things. But I know from sitting on the Planning Commission that the intersection that Mr. Topaz references is not a city intersection. That's a ODOT, and that's a rail. And we can't put a shovel in the ground within 10 feet of that intersection without, an act of something holy. But, you just can't do that. We've tried to put entrance signs. We've tried to put, businesses have tried to locate, businesses have tried to put signs over there. And it's a big lift even just for a sign. So I just want to make sure that's the way it's always been explained to me, just for the record, is that if that was an easy fix, people would have done it years ago.
Yeah, and as far as the access to downtown during some of the events, that the intersection improvements as proposed will vastly improve the pedestrian access and the whole safety and functionality of that intersection. Also, usually during the heavier events, the street is closed. So
Right, and there's also
not
the
talking about a
improvements
lot of
that we
traffic
make all
there.
the way up the corridor plan at
Right.
Plymouth and Old Portland Road that will take heat.
Yes.
A lot of things will
Yes.
be, the flow will be greatly improved when the
Oh,
entire
yes.
plan is complete.
Vastly.
And
So
that-
we can't take a pinpoint and judge the whole community.
Chief, you guys did a
You're right.
great job on 4th of July, the way you shut down both lanes going out. It was absolutely phenomenal on Portland Road. You could see the officers down there when you put out the light there, just putting the light out right there. It wasn't 2 lanes, but just putting that light out was very smart. Wise.
Visibility was
Yep.
way better.
Yep.
So can I make a comment on the two-way versus four-way stop? Would the design be convertible to a four-way stop if needed in the future without a lot of modification?
I believe so, yes. If the warrants were there for four-way stop, then you could convert it by adding 2 more stop signs.
And you might be able to do it, if it's designed this way, you might be able to do it just for the busier month.
Well, and
Do
then
you do that? Do
there's
people
other
do that?
aspects.
Does that scare people?
Yeah, there's other aspects as well as well, such as I can't say mass transit, but other kinds of transportation forms. For example, I think many of the small towns that I've visited up and down the coast and in Canadian Gulf Islands and around the region that are heavily tourist oriented in the summertime, they simply have electric trolley cars that move people back and forth. So that takes away a lot of takes away a lot of the traffic volume but it increases parking areas, and it's more of a controlled kind of thing. So I can see those kinds of things happening as we move forward and as we get larger, especially down here in the riverfront development. We're going to have something like that on, especially for our events. Those things are fairly inexpensive, and they're very cost effective when it comes to transportation and moving people around. So there are those alternatives that we got to think about that can solve this problem as well.
Again, let's just try to keep focused. I don't want to take up too much of his time. He's been sitting here, and we're behind schedule. Just so everybody knows.
I'm going to jump in, Rick.
Go
Remember,
ahead.
I come from small towns in the East Coast, which have 300 years experience. My forte has also been designing things that are 20, 30 years out that right now look impossible. And obviously, the first thing you have to do is find out what the problems are, even though there are no solutions. No solutions now. If this end of Oregon is going to grow, Route 30 is going to be a much bigger passage of vehicles, one way or the other. And I'd like to be a part of it here in St. Helens. What does that mean? I don't want to keep St. Helens like it is now. Whatever that is, yes, we're going to go through growing. Yes, tourism is going to be a bigger part. Industry should become a bigger part. Housing should become a bigger part. There's a whole lot of things we don't know. What is again, we're trying to blue sky, what if the Gable Road and the war with ODOT is going to be with knights and armor and lances, because we're going in the wrong direction on that one, as you know. That's the kind of ideas you're going to end up doing one thing and being able to flip it over to something else. Has that been put into the plans? That at some point we're going to do A, and then so many years when this happens, we're going to do B? Or has that not been part of the planning?
And again, I hate to come back to this, but we are focused today on First Street and St. Helens Street, and it's a very large intersection that is the connector between the Gable and the St. Helens Street Riverfront District, the Columbia Boulevard, the Deer Island Street, whatever you want to call it, Gateway Loop. Yeah, we're on the intersection, and I know that you're probably referring back to Kittleson's design of the whole work as the scope as a whole, but we're talking about one intersection right today. So, any more questions? I forget your first name. Tony. Any more questions for Tony? Tony, I don't know if you answered them all.
I'm good.
You did?
I'm good. My question has been answered.
Okay.
Keith?
Okay.
Mine has been answered. I didn't have a question.
I tell you,
I just had a statement.
Okay, just making sure.
If we do go through with this, you need to let your bosses know that, boy, the pressure's on to make this intersection everything they say you're going to make it.
I'll make it concrete.
Thank you.
All right, Tony.
All right, thank you.
I think that's it. Yep. Okay, we're going to discuss stage sponsorship. John?
All right, this is something that's been talked loosely for quite a while. It's regarding the Columbia View Park gazebo that had a little improvements to add some wings on it to create a little more capacity. And for the last 3 years, we've been receiving a sponsorship from Wana Credit Union, and we're gracious for that. There was an understanding with that agreement that there would be a new stage as part of that, and the little wings are less than impressive to all, I think, and they've been very functional and they've served their purpose. And so I wanted to, formally bring this to the council to get support to. One is very interested in continuing that sponsorship. They recognize the benefit to the community and would like to do that, but they'd like to have something a little more
nicer.
Yeah. So moving forward with a plan and design for a new stage at a location pretty much directly behind the existing. I think we'll have somebody, a professional, look at it. But the idea is, at least the things we know, are that the dance area or the little stage in front on the ground right there needs to be a little bit bigger. Probably push back a little bit. The utilities, all the sound and electrical is all grossly outdated. So whatever needs to happen with that. And
I think it would be a great do it right with the expansion of the park in the near future. And it would just be, even if we had another structure on the other side, we'd have two different structures that could potentially have two stages of two different bands, whether that be it, one setting up, one taken down, or weddings. You have
Yeah,
it just opens.
popular weddings.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, there's
Weddings.
the issue of timing as far as 13 nights and
It's going to be difficult.
this month's events.
Yeah.
And, getting in and get done and getting out. There's also an issue of compatibility. This is also much like the intersection here. It's an opportunity to, the Riverwalk project they're working with, the Build Grant, is going to have a real unique look and feel, or hopefully it has something that really stands out and is a
Because that starts right at the edge of the property, right, on Riverview.
starts at
at the
top
dock.
of the top of the ramp. And so, to the extent that what we come up with there, if it's concurrent with the Riverwalk design, we want to make sure that they're compatible and more than compatible, more a real asset that shines.
Sure.
Are we limited to not wiping out what we have now and starting with a clean slate, or can we do that?
I think the gazebo has been moved several times.
I mean, just eliminate it and have a real good stage, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
We've had
gazebo's going to
events.
either be relocated or serve dysfunctional life. So.
Put the gazebo back in the other park behind the library and start over down the waterfront.
Be pretty hard to move the seating, Steve.
That's okay. We can do that.
I would just like, I know that Juana's going to be, I'd just like them, something that it be drawn up that in memory of Gracie, because she did donate that first one, that one there, correct?
I know when
Gracie's Antique.
Yes.
when we
So
had the
we need to make sure that we have a placard of some sort.
I think there is a rock plaque out there already.
There is, okay.
Yeah, next to the
apologize.
rhododendrons.
Yep.
Yeah, verify that, but I want to say I looked in. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
It gets moved around a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was provisions for that even in the rough draft of the replan of the bigger park. But we have talked about having a bigger stage because we've had bands and performances that cannot come here because the facility we have will not accommodate them.
Yep.
And it just seems funny to say no to even local productions from the high school. They're like, we can't do this stage. And so that's not even inviting people from out of the city. That's our own group says that stage too small for a lot of things. So it just, I thought we were in planning to do that, just a matter of timing it between events. I thought we were already in that place.
Okay. Well, given that we have a revenue stream, it makes that decision
To support it, to do it.
a little easier. So.
Yep. Okay, thanks, John.
Forward.
All right, review recreation manager, recreation sports program specialist, and recreation sharp lead job position. Matt.
These are all. Oh, what's that? Just these.
That sounds like really like. You know, that was doing that last time too. Yeah, that same mic.
The new equipment and IT stuff should be. I'm scheduling that, so it's coming soon. The three recreation positions that you have are new job descriptions that are unrepresented positions. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them about any of those positions.
The question I had, you had minimum requirements was 18 years old in a GED. I'd like somebody who had some official qualifications, certified in child care, sports safety, or things like that, as compared to just someone who's been doing it for 5 years. There are national organizations, and since recently we've had a lot of bad press about sports people being child molesters and a few other things.
So the two positions I believe you're referring to, which are the sports program specialist and the recreation sharp lead specialist, both of those positions go through background checks through the school district, which is a rather more intensive than what the city does, as well as fingerprinting as well for those positions. The reason we don't do any kind of formal 4-year education or anything is because it's an after-school program, and it's not necessarily a teaching position that we would have to do any of those requirements for.
I was more worried about sports safety and doing things that might hurt kids rather than educate them. The background checks obviously would need it. Now, I was talking more about the liability of having somebody who physically knows what has to be done when kids are playing. That was more of my concern then.
Correct, and the people that would likely apply for this position have experience in coaching, as well as certifications. Those are typically bonuses that they put down on their resume, and that would kind of draw them to the top of the list, as opposed to somebody who's just 18 and has a GED.
Well, I'd like the sheet to say indication of certification. Not that they may have it. I would like to require it.
That may be. I would only probably comment that may be more likely in the future as the program develops and becomes more inclusive with additional programs in sports. Right now, what we're looking at is somebody to really manage our sport leagues that we are starting.
I think to find somebody with those qualifications right now, they're probably getting paid a lot more than what we're offering.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my comment as
Can
well.
you-
Hourly wage is probably fairly more on the minimal.
It's a little restrictive right now. We don't want to overbend what we're doing right now. We have a pretty good model right now. It needs some more development, and maybe as we grow in the future, we can list out those requirements if we need to fulfill any future positions.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jenny.
I had two parts. One part is a lot of times with lower wage jobs, they put those skills as preferred but not required. So it is required to be this, and this is preferred. So people would know to put it on their resume, and it would give the interviews a chance to, let's screen these first. And the other thing is there are leagues that do training in the community that offer it for a low cost, that rec assistants could go to a training at a coach thing for something that's being offered by an intramural team that the city wouldn't have to put on the training. So they get the training after the job. So that would be in a low-paying job. Part of the benefit of a low-paying job is we're going to give you the CPR first aid, we're going to give you the sports training, and you're going to be a better employee as a result of this job. So they might not come with it, but they'll be better people once we've hired them.
Right.
And
Right.
that would kind of cover the safety issue, because even though we're hiring, which is great, every single rec assistant I've talked to in our community said they love that job, they don't want to give it up, they want to find some way to work around their other schedule because they really enjoy working for the rec center. But I think making them better humans for the employees as much as for the students that come to play there. I think it's important that it improves everybody's life there.
And I think that really touches on kind of the professional development of when we hire
Right,
somebody.
exactly.
And we may start them at a certain level, but the idea and vision is to train them to be future leaders in the
Super.
community.
Awesome. That's all I got.
Okay. Any other? Good job, Matt. All right, so now we're going to go to department reports. Chief Greenway.
Nothing today, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Fine.
Sue, you can't run off yet.
I need water.
You must have a lot to report. She was going after water.
I don't have a lot to report. I was out all last week, and so I don't have a lot of updates. I do know the crews have been out mowing and keeping things up to date. I did want to ask, though, with Mr. Ruse that was here earlier, if you wanted to see that scope of work back on the council agenda for approval, or wait till the next council meeting.
How does council feel about the scope of work? You want to wait till next council meeting? You want to?
It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm good.
you're good.
I'm good.
Yep.
I wanted to have the conversation and not have it hurried through.
Yep.
The perception of hurrying things through without thinking it out was too much.
Absolutely.
And I think if we're going to start this process, we need to have open dialogue and have a representative here rather than just a sheet of paper.
Yes, and I agree with that. And I'm thankful for Tony for taking the time to come out here today. He's a very knowledgeable and very experienced engineer. He's done a lot of very large transportation projects. He also was a lead engineer for the Tonkin Field. Is that what the stadium over there in Hillsborough? So that turned out
beautiful complex.
Yes, it is. He did a fantastic job on that. Chatting with him outside for a moment after he was here, he did indicate that if we did delay this till the next council meeting, it wouldn't really put them too far behind schedule if it went ahead and was approved. And he feels that this could still easily get out to bid in January, which should get some good bids and get a contractor lined up so that the work can be accomplished over the summer of next year. So
what's the
that's your
consensus
pleasure.
of the council?
At the next meeting is fine if you want to.
Right,
put
so
it-
I
put
want to
it
know
to
what
them.
the consensus of the council is.
Thank you.
I was already calling that, and these
Sorry,
two are
Doug.
yes.
Okay.
And I was gonna
Sorry about that.
next meeting for you.
I'm good for now.
You're good to have it tonight?
Sure.
No, can't do it tonight. Good.
Yeah,
We could, Kathy.
it would have to modify the agenda, which is a lot of work for
Yes.
Kathy. So
So I think everybody here is all in agreement of putting it on next.
fantastic. That works exceptionally well. Thank you so very much.
Yes.
The reason is that our citizens, quite a few citizens, came forward voicing opinions about that, and I think Mr. Kittleson addressed those issues, and I think we brought those issues forward to him to address, and I think he addressed them.
And I think, yes, and I think the point that John brought up, and that's what I was trying to explain, is that this is the focal point of two plans, and this is our waterfront. This is the intersection.
Yes.
So
yes,
not to put the pressure on, but this is it.
Yeah, the two lead engineers for the project are extremely aware of that, and even though they weren't involved specifically with the corridor master plan, their firm obviously was, and they have all of those resources available to them. So they understand what this intersection means to not just the downtown area, but to the whole community. This really needs to be something over the top.
Yep. Okay. Anything else, Sue?
No, thank you so very
Okay.
much.
Jenny, you gave us a good report earlier. Margaret?
We had our program last night with joint presentation by the Oregon Historical Society and the Mazamas, and we had a nice crowd. And I just wanted to say that there was a gentleman in St. Helens, an elderly gentleman, who is a former president of the Mazamas, and he came out just
cool.
to see the presentation. And it was really nice for the presenter from their organization to get to say hello to him. But he was quite spry and pleased to see his old organization's history shared with the community. But we saw over 100 of those glass lantern slides from the 1920s of recreation and mountaineering in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. So it was a nice little presentation. So, and the community said, we want to see more of this. There seems to be a real hunger for local history. We've had this event. There was the John Gum School event. There was the 130th birthday for the city. And we have just really nice crowds come out to those events. So we're going to look at partnering more with the Museum Association and with the genealogy group, and to try to bring some of those things to the forefront for our community. And that's it.
Thanks, Margaret. Matt? Kathy?
I do have a couple things. If you remember back in August, I think, you did a notice to a resolution for an abatement at 406 South 12th Street.
That's right.
And the abatement time frame has passed. I did get a phone call from the bank because it's in foreclosure right now.
Oh, it is. And that was household garbage, if I recall.
Yes, yes.
That was bad.
It's bad. She asked for us maybe a 30-day extension because they're trying to evict right now, and the process is it's taking a little more time than they anticipated. So they would just like a 30-day extension on getting it all cleaned up.
I mean, the neighbors, I feel for. I guess so, but we can clean it up and lean that house, can't we?
Yes, we can.
We can absolutely do that.
Yes.
We don't want to do that. So 30 days is max.
We can clean it up and then invoice the bank and say you owe us this, and maybe it wouldn't get to a lien, but the lien is an option.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was household garbage, you guys. It was not.
It's pretty dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
I think, especially if kids get into it, and that's my concern.
I agree. I hate to say that, but it's a safety issue for our citizens.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I'll notify her and let her know.
Okay.
The other thing I had is at the last meeting, or at a couple of different meetings, we've talked about a parking lot and having something where we carry over when there's discussions that either need to be brought back to the council or get assigned to a staff member.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know if that's something that you wanted, and if so, then we need to be real clear about what goes on the parking lot, and then and appoint the person that's responsible for it, and then a time when you want to come back to it. So if that's okay with the council, then I'll go ahead and create it. The other question I had was, is it something that you want to be on the council agenda, or do you want it to be like in a report, like in the administrative department report?
Well, first of all, just in a matter of history, since I've been on the council, the whole terms are, we've talked about that. Well, we've talked about it. Well, nothing happens. And I like this idea because what we talk about can move forward. It can stay in the parking lot as long as we want it, but we've talked about it, we've discussed it, and it isn't something that gets kind of like put on the shelf and forgotten about.
Right.
So I think it's very much needed. Whether it comes out in a report or on the agenda, I'd rather have it on the agenda, or at least mentioned in the agenda for upcoming agenda items. If not, the parking lot is going to be in each agenda, I hope, of seeing what is in the future and what's there. So
that's all going to change a little bit, Doug.
Okay.
Yes,
so,
yes.
just
That is going to actually happen. We have Rachel working on it, but yes, we'd like to move forward with that. Just
Okay.
because.
Okay.
It's one of those things.
I'll make it and create it so that it is a part of the admin department report.
Yep.
On at least a monthly basis.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Yep. Tina. So we want to know what's new because we know you're constantly adding stuff, right?
I am. So it's something that I, would like to see if we can't all just start saying the same thing. Everything that is published for tourism and local events and everything that's happening is always on discovercolumbiacounty.com. So anybody that wants to know what's going on or when does this start, the agenda for instance, Halloween Town with all the dates that it's happening has been on that site since August. And then we also released it. You get that.
We got that.
Yeah.
We're just going to make sure next year that we do our own little press.
Yeah. Because it's on the site.
You've done your part.
Yeah, I've
We're
tried.
Gonna do extra. Just to battle that.
I don't know how to kind of like push it out any further than the Facebook page with 120,000 people looking at it.
We know
Be
every
awesome.
first October meeting we have this, so we're going to take care of it and do all we can do, and we'll see if it happens again. It probably will.
Yeah, we'll try.
But we'll.
You just keep trying.
Here's make one question: I wasn't out driving about checking your work this weekend as I normally am, but normally I see local. I seriously come down because I see stuff posted online, and I go, "Let's go see what the facts are."
Yeah.
I go look for myself and then find out that it's not entirely what they put online. So then I know. But I didn't go do that this weekend. And normally I see those local access signs, local access, like down at the end of 4th Street that like indicate to people coming around Old Portland Road that people can go around on 4th Street. Have we not done that before? Seems like we've done that at other times.
Well, CERT kind of does the traffic program with both the public employee work, group as well as the police force. So they kind of handle the traffic side of it because obviously that is beyond my scope of work.
Not your donut.
Well, I mean, I would rather leave it to the professionals. They know the street signs they have. They know the reader board signs they have. They know what signs they need to get out for no parking on the side of the street and that kind of thing. And I know a lot of them have been sick. I just do want to say that. There's been a lot of illness. Yeah.
Peter, I don't think we want to bombard you too much on this issue, okay? So I want you to go ahead and let us know how is it going setting up.
Okay, so the feedback that we've gotten from this past weekend was from a few different companies and groups in town and businesses in town. Plymouth Pub told me that they did the most they've ever done on a Saturday since they opened on this past Saturday. And 2 C's Vendor Mall was 52% up from the same Saturday last year. The shops on 1st Street all were busy and active. But it was cold and rainy, and it wasn't as many people maybe as we thought there would be.
Isn't it amazing how weather, it was a record cold day.
Yeah.
High cold day.
Yeah.
Yes.
And since the last meeting, we confirmed that Peter Fasinelli from Twilight is coming for the second weekend. And that's gotten a ton of interest from across the nation. He's going to be doing a lot of press pushing out on their side from LA. And then we got the maps finally came in with, we're using one map with 2 interest levels from the retail side and also the haunted tours side. And then we also have our little storybook done, which is with the walking tour for the Museum of Peculiarities and Oddities. So people really love that. It's a fun storybook. And then the stores that are participating have their logos in the back cover, so they also enjoy some extra exposure. And then Kathy is going to play the latest thing that has just been completed, which is a commercial. Maybe.
Favorite place, come here, watch, great big St. Helens, Oregon lives at discovercolumbiacounty.com, and we are powered by City of St. Helens, Oregon.
It actually gives a pretty good scope of what you do. I mean, just that's what you
Well,
do.
and what this
Yeah.
town offers.
Yes, yes.
The tract is actually a lot cleaner. This was like a little pull off of a stick, so it's a
won't be,
big file. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kink Radio is currently doing a whole contest throughout all of Alpha Media for Halloween Town, and the winner gets a premium camping experience on Sand Island Campground with gift certificates from around town, and people are, I think, we're going to get lots of people that are interested in winning that. I'm also working with a few groups that actually are doing some specialized Twilight things, so we're doing some contests and things like that so they can get like their picture taken for free and things like that. But we're just concentrating now on sound and staging for this weekend to get it all
So
together.
you did confirm that the guy from, the Twilight actor, but will be here on the second weekend
Yep.
of October.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend is the Halloween Town Parade.
And then we have all the extra like cast members coming, like the dentist that was in Halloween Town, and the pincushion secretary, and Harriet, and the two-headed man. And we also have opening before the pumpkin lighting ceremony. We have Miss Lemos, which is on a television show called The Ghosts of Morgan City. She's coming to do a 15-minute talk about fun,
And it's all on the website, and it's been updated.
It's all on the website, and it's
Okay.
been updated.
Yep.
And it's also on the Facebook page, which that's the first place we release everything. So that's been on there since, August.
Okay. I hate to cut you short,
No,
but we've got to get...
That's okay. And just thanks to, Public Works for working hard with people sick, and
We got a great public
the
works.
police,
You know that. Yep.
the police for waving hello.
Nice.
Yep.
It's all good.
Okay, let's try to make our council reports.
We got one more staff member.
Oh, Rachel snuck in on me. What the heck?
Had a good turn.
Yeah, you don't get a
Yes.
turn.
On advice over here. Not much to report. Do be on the lookout. We're going to be re-engaging with the community, and we've got some community re-engagement activities that will be happening. Hope to roll out a plan to be included in your next packet 2 weeks out. And also, counselors, if I can implore you to please check your emails and or call me with your calendars. The number, we're trying to schedule some training. We're also trying to schedule some, we're getting into event season and would love to have you out and about in the community. That is what I have. Thank you.
Thanks. John.
Okay. Kathy mentioned parking lot earlier, and looked like dominoes. Everybody's like, parking lot? And everybody's thinking the physical sense,
Yeah. That's where we put stuff.
Go round and round.
Yeah,
and round
just,
to the fifth
just that
floor.
instant look of confusion. What's parking? A little hypersensitivity there. So you noticed something today in the planning report that is a little bit different in showing projects listed, priorities of near far term kinds of priorities,
Yep.
and Rachel in her new role is also looking at that at a more global level through the organization here to really put those organizational priorities together that the council can use as a tool in their goal setting.
Absolutely.
Also recognize that when we add something in as a priority, that's something it's going to push somewhere else, and that's kind of a reality check. Sometimes we want to take what's not going to happen with the resources that we have right now. So that's I think that's much needed, valuable, long overdue, and I'm glad to see it kind of coming together.
Me too.
I wanted to give an update on the ethics complaint, and I think that this is not a negative thing. I think it's a positive thing. It's kind of a learning opportunity for all of us. As a reminder, there was a recap. Councilor Topaz filed an ethics complaint to the Oregon Ethics Commission based off two things. One of them, the meeting being located outside the city, and the other one is the subject matter related to the executive session. And that was filed and refiled, and we're getting, Rachel and I talked with the case investigator that made the staff recommendation, and then on Thursday the Oregon Ethics Commission is going to issue an opinion of whether or not they're going to open an investigation, but they're probably going to rely on the staff report. Most organizations do. So in that staff report, it talks about, and we called and talked with her at some length about this, and really they're declining to opine on the meeting outside the organization, although she did direct us to an ORS that shows that it's perfectly reasonable to do that. And the second piece is that, the recommendation is that it be moved forward to open an investigation, but the investigation is only to the limit that, as we understand it, is that essentially staff, and I take a lot of ownership with this, and consult with our internally to how do we notice these meetings. We've, for the last several years in the waterfront, and we've kind of exercised an abundance of caution of the things that are really sensitive, and we don't. We want to engage the media and make sure that they're there to report. But so we advertise this as an executive session, when in fact it was really more of a workshop. And they're saying that that didn't really need to happen. We could have just done it as a workshop or a training, and not even really need to do any noticing at all. But out of that abundance of caution, that we've basically overdone it, and has kind of be the finding of the report. And so I guess that's my update with that. If you have any questions, that's fine. But I had a good time at the League of Oregon Cities conference. It was exhausting being there from Wednesday to Saturday, but and it's really, I think St. Helens really stands out. From my perspective, we get a lot of attention compared to the 231 other cities. St. Helens runs through a lot of courses there. And it's
241. You said 231.
Yeah, 241.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's my report.
All right. All right. Counselor's report. Locke.
So, trying to think. I guess it was yesterday. Rachel, Barry, and myself went over to Cascades and had a meeting with Hamer Electric, who's been doing the electric over there since 1995, I believe, is what he said. And so they pretty much know the place inside and out. I've had him do some research that I talked about months ago and whatnot about some of the substations over there. But I mainly talked about what's his idea of what's available there and what's useful there, and because supposedly now PG is going to put in a new main substation. What do we do in the meantime? That's not going to cost a lot of money, but works for everybody and works for the Cascades and works for ACSP together, so whatnot. So he had some recommendations, but of course PG has to be the one that makes the final decision and whatnot. So I believe we're having a meeting with them in a week or two to kind of iron things out and see where they stand with things. And so hopefully I'll have a better understanding. Part of the reason there is because a lot of the equipment is old and doesn't meet safety standards that new stuff is and whatnot. So anyway, but we're trying to work through those issues so that we can at least get some headway on expanding over there, at least with the two companies we have. We're definitely looking a ways down for any new businesses going in there, but at least we can work with what we have. So anyway, so that's kind of my report.
Okay. Councilor Carlson?
I had a big list and I shortened it based on the agenda, based on how late it is.
Yes.
A couple of things is Toy and Joy's coming up. Super excited about that, how we can support them in different efforts. The chamber is looking, as Christy has come in and met with us a couple times and has been really open to talking to the council. She wants to do more partnerships. She's doing this, kind of being the point person on the Scarecrow competition. I'm helping her out with that. I brought this up before. This is kind of a parking lot, not parking lot item. And Brad brought it up about the island, about the Audubon Society, and I brought it up for Parks and Rec. Portland, Audubon is on Sauvie Island, and I don't know what it takes to have them come out and do visits here. And I think all you have to do is be open to it. But it just seems like if they're literally at Warrior Rock Lighthouse, they could be here. And I think that that's just the next level of communication and getting all of that multi-level outdoor recreation, outdoor information. So whether it's to visitors that come here or whether it's to students here, but it would bring people travel across the state to engage in their programs. But that could be another nonprofit partnership that could, you never know what grants lie in their treasure trove of nature preservancy and all that kind of stuff. So
That's interesting you bring that up, because Dalton Lake offers one of the most effective viewing areas for migratory birds around. I mean, it's an amazing area, and that's on the. I was going to say something about that in my report, but since you brought it up,
I think about it every fall and every spring. Is that it's not a counselor position to make the invite; it's a staff person's position to make the invite, because obviously it takes support to invite a nonprofit to our community. But I think that we're there, and I think that that's just another rung in our October offerings, is that it could be another thing. It's another resource that you don't have to prop up if people know it's there. While they're already here doing stuff for the weekend, the more things we have to do, the more likely, more hours they're going to spend here.
I just want to add that the Parks Commission there's several individuals involved in researching that area, renaming it to Dalton Lake Nature Preserve, all kinds of things
Super awesome.
that are going forward with Dalton Lake, and certainly remind them when we have our meeting on Monday that you brought this up.
Yeah, there's just with the work we've done at Nob Hill and the work at Dalton and now Sand Island and Salmonberry, there's a lot of different habitats out here that all have different wildlife, and people could access that. That's a whole day that somebody could spend in our community, eat in a restaurant, shop in our stores, buy gas in our community. It's just another reason, and it's another reason for people that work in Portland to stay local with their recreation. You don't have to drive, to Hillsboro when it's right here in your backyard and you didn't even know it was there. That's all I have.
One of the comments on getting people here to go shopping, we have our Walmarts here. They have Walmarts in downtown Portland, and the prices are rather different, and we're on the favorable side of that. And bringing somebody out here to look at birds and shopping probably will come back second for the shopping.
The reduced minimum wage, literally, drinks and fast food drive-through restaurants are 25 cents cheaper in Columbia County, and that's because of the minimum wage. And that's the same at Walmart, it's the same at Safeway, it's the same everywhere. So people they keep it local, just extolling the virtue of spending your dollars here at home. It's all good.
Your turn,
all I had.
Councilor Topaz.
I'm kind of worried about this marijuana plant mess. One of the things that's on my radar is Business Oregon will not help a facility that has marijuana. The news media's got a number of articles. The scientific journal's gotten a number of articles about some of the bad things happening to marijuana. One of the things that they're beginning to delineate is a lot of the oils help people over 50, but not under. So, but this is as we're on the learning curve. The question of what's legal, I know that the licensing bureau has one thing, but they're not the court. And I'd really like our attorney to see what the law says versus what the licensing, because they don't have enough money in their budget to even have a decent lab to watch what's going on or to monitor anything. So some of their decisions are made of what they can do and not what they should be doing. So that's what that thin ice that I'm worried about.
Oh, I had to go back. Can I do a go back?
You can.
Off of, I've had a couple conversations with John. Steve brought it up, but I've had a conversation with John, just like Brad came and gave his report, just like CSET gives their report. I would like to see at some point, I would like to see our tenant come and give a report. Because then we can ask the questions directly to
They're
them.
not our tenant. We are selling the property. We are selling the property. They are purchasing it. We are not the OLCC. We are not the state of Oregon who legalized marijuana, and we're not the OLCC who regulates it. We sold the property. Bottom line, they're not our tenant. I don't know why. I'm just getting frustrated because I keep having Al come at me and Topaz is over here, and then you're saying you want a report from them. They're not our tenant, okay? We sold them a property, which the contract is still in the legal. We've had attorneys around this the whole time, Steve. Before you came in, we had a lawsuit from Agnes and Vanetta, okay? That's already, they've had their day, okay? That's already been done with. Bottom line is we are not the state. I'm not going to sit here with an argument. I'm just making a statement. And it's my job to do this, and it's my council meeting. You had your turn to chair, and you've had your time. I'm going to refer it now to Councilor Morton.
I think one of the things that League of Oregon Cities was very interesting and somewhat exhausting for myself as well. And I was very encouraged by their small businesses, and especially they are the leading city in one of the leading cities in the nation for recreational tourism. They've done it, and they've done it well. They even have what I spent quite some time touring an incubator building, a facility that incubates recreational and outdoor products. And it's a place, it's a kind of a think tank place, but its incubators are office buildings that are set up for people who are doing startups. It was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating of how much emphasis there is on our report that we heard today on tourism, and it's a future economy for any city. So particularly ours, and what we have in terms of the environment to offer for visitors is untapped, and it's a tremendous economic potential. Some of the other series of seminars that I attended that stuck out was the ethics one, and I think Councilor Topaz came in on that a bit late, and I don't know if you knew that you were sitting right next to me, but you were, and I enjoyed that. And
Kathy too.
Exactly, and what I took away from that is something that was on my mind about 9 months ago when I asked the council to consider having an attorney present to protect the council from any kinds of issues that were unforeseen, especially with our new property developments and those kinds of things. It would be, I think, wise and I'm just bringing this up again, that it'd be wise to have a local attorney who would not be so expensive, who would have expertise in property development, to especially sit in on some of our sessions. I think that would ease a lot of tension, especially with the council concern when we are a target and we're not protected by the city. So I would like to see that revisited, possibly in a parking lot somewhere, that it might be a thing that we could, an issue that we could tap into. That's my report.
Okay, thanks, Council President. Again, just a little, I would like to see, I'm glad to see that we're having something drawn up for the St. Helens Industrial Park. Get that drawn up. It's frustrating to have this one little subject take up so much of our time. We are not partnered, and I do not want to be affiliated with. We sold them a piece of property. We are not in partnership with ACSP or Agrotech, and I know that there's certain individuals that have brought that attention. That is not the case. I'm going to state it for the record again. We sold a piece of property, over and done with. We're waiting for the final paperwork, and it's done. I look forward to getting a plan drawn up for that property and getting our staff, and it's happening with Rachel going over there and diving in, and then our staff as well, alleviating council of those duties and moving forward with this the way we're supposed to be doing this. And I look forward to our urban renewal. What I sat in on the League of Oregon Cities was when the ethics was going on was the SDC portions of things and how that works. And I felt that was very, 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 very important, more than the ethics thing. And my eyes were open how our urban renewal can be used as a tool. I think beyond what we kind of know, but we can even go a little bit further. And John's going to check into a few more options on that too as well. And I like that it was up on Jenny and Jacobs. The urban renewal, when it starts kicking in, will be what was the last little column there? Wild card. So I like being a wild card, and I'm hoping that is one that actually is not a joker, but an ace. So it was a lot of information, a lot of good networking. Good to see some old friends there, and that's what's weird is you start making friends as you start learning about each other's lives also when you're eating together. So looking forward to continue to work with the county on the trails that was discussed. We will definitely do our part to inform our citizens next year earlier on street closures and make that. We'll help Crystal put a little bit more promo out on that next year. So let's see. Yeah, the city's moving forward, and we are continuing to have a few distractions along the way. It posed to be difficult, but we got this. We're out for our citizens' best interest, and that's what helps reinvigorate me to continue to push these projects through, continue to do these long meetings, because we have extremely long meetings, and I do a lot of meetings out there with other entities through the community too, just to make sure that collaboration and that partnership is built a little bit stronger. So I look forward to continuing on with that. My line of work slows down where I'll be able to get even deeper and harder into that. So again, the League of Oregon Cities was very helpful to me. So did you enjoy yourself down there? Your first one? Yeah, good. All right. So with that,
Can I say one more thing?
you can.
The issue on the parking lot.
Yes.
It would be nice to have clear direction from whether it's like the consensus of the whole council to put one thing on the agenda or another thing on the agenda instead of one counselor.
Yeah. Well, I think I know that our city administrator is in the process of looking at over all that. So just a general, I'm okay with talking about that.
My issue is that there are certain issues that we have talked about for 2 years and nothing ever comes of them.
Right.
And if they were put on a list anywhere, we would check back in with them. When I got my packet, I'd be like, oh, where are we on that? And then if somebody had an update, it would prompt them to give it at their report time.
Be patient. It's our council goals that we talked about. And
Just make sure stuff doesn't disappear.
John's getting it there. That's what I can tell you.
I think Kathy has a good point, and I think before we close the meeting that we could possibly entertain a motion that I have is to discuss a local attorney to attend, maybe with our upcoming budget meetings, to attend some of our sensitive meetings that we might need an attorney here for. On-call, part-time, local, and I just think that's important. And I'm not pushing for one attorney over another. I don't have friends.
No, yeah.
I don't have friends, even though it was suggested that that I did have a friend who was an attorney that I was pushing. I am not doing that. It's what I want is some legal representation when it happens in this council, and I'm looking around, and it's about me, and it's about my decision that I'm about to make. And I want some legal representation of those kinds of things.
Nobody thinks that about you, Doug. Or maybe out there, I don't know.
No. I'm talking about the responsibilities that come to us in terms of lawsuits.
Absolutely.
I'm being sued right now, and I don't like it. And I'm being sued through the ethics commission. So I do not like that, and I wish I had a legal counsel here to tell me otherwise. So that's why I'm saying that. And I don't know if you're being sued. I don't know if you're being sued. I have no idea, but I know that I'm being sued. I got served by the Ethics Commission, and I don't like it.
Okay. All right. So I mean, let's put it on the parking. Yes. Yes, Kathy. Yeah, we're going to go into executive session after this, so we're not done here, but you all are adjourned. I don't think we need anybody here except for maybe property transactions.